last minute tips on exam, live webinar with CA Rudesh Pankania and CA Kushal Lodha. I welcome both sirs on behalf of Vikasa Vasai, Vikasa Akola, and Vikasa Dule. This seminar is this seminar Vikasa Vasai is doing along with Vikasa Akola and Vikasa Dule. I guess Rudesh sir and Kushal sir give at least basic what we are going to this webinar.
Okay. So I think what is more important, the way we planned up for this webinar was one of the most important thing is what things to be kept in mind in the last days of the exam and during the exam. I think that's where we thought of let's do this. And thanks to Kushal as well, who agreed and was available and very glad. I think he's a
But
perfect
just
example of getting ranks in all three single digit ranks in all three level of exams. And who better than him that we could have today? So I think that's going to be those final tips that needs to be kept in mind. I still remember at my time, of course, webinars and all of this. So I had created one diary of myself that was with me. And before every day of those last 10, 15 days before exam during, I used to read all those points every day. I don't know why, but I used to do that. So, ताकि भाई दिमाग से कभी ना निकल जाए कि ये चीजें रखनी है दिमाग में. I think that is what I used to do.
and yes, sir, this was much motivational session before exam is a much needed thing. And I guess just जब exam बस 10 दिन दूर है और उसके पहले एक webinar from you and Kushal sir is अगर मेरा अटेम्प्ट होता तो मैं खुद एग्जाम देने चले जाता. इनफैक्ट नहीं है अभी फिलहाल तो. So before you actually start, let our audience know about you. So I request Mr. Rahil to give introduction of Rudesh sir.
Thank you, Harshit. Okay, so good evening, everyone. Welcome to the most amazing webinar on tips to clear C exams or ACET with a rank. In order to help CA students, Vikasa Vaste jointly with Vikasa Akola and Vikasa Tule of ICI organizes this webinar on the Ranker's Way last minute tips on the exam. I, Rahil Jain, is super excited to introduce our resource person, CA Rudesh Pankhania sir. Rudesh Pankhania is an action taker, multitasker, entrepreneur, mentor, public speaker. He is someone who has always chosen an unconventional path of doing things and wears multiple hats at the same time. Because he believes in motivational thoughts are good, motivational actions are better. It's a slogan that he wears on his sleeves and follows the path. He is currently an elected regional council member of Western region of ICAI. He founded Meta Group to help people from various spheres of life to connect and network via his unique seminars, workshops, and socio-cultural events. He also started Meadow Foundation that helps to educate the underprivileged in the society and in the long run would want to have an adoption center and schools for them. On professional front, having an experience of 10 plus years, he is mainly a personal development coach, a mentor to students, and corporate trainer for professionals from all fields on public speaking, presentation skills, career guidance, and all management topics, and has coached to 50,000 plus participants face to face. He is known for his unique way of teaching in his workshops and emphasis on learnings and takeaways from his sessions. He has been a bank auditor for 10 plus years and has audited all PSU banks, RBI, and foreign banks too. Converting his passion into profession, he is an event manager, professional author, anchor, and choreographer for corporate as well as wedding and party events. On academic front, he is a chartered accountant, lawyer, and a postgraduate in commerce, visa, FAFT, and net qualified. Known for his flair for speaking and writing, in free time, he is also a content creator on social media. Words will fall short of I had to talk more about him. You guys will get to know this as the session moves forward. I hope you all have an amazing session. Sir, I would now request you to take forward this session.
Yeah, Harshit.
Thank you very much, Rahil. Now I request Miss Naya Doshi to give an introduction of Kushal Lodha sir.
Good evening, one and all present here. Actually, I was very excited to introduce Kushal. Hello, Kushal. So basically, he's a person we all look forward to, and I would like to say he is the founder of KAGR, a one-stop solution for all finance students and professional of India. And obviously, he's a qualified chartered accountant with all India ranks across all levels of CA. He has also cleared CFA and is an ACCA affiliate with World Rank 3. He has been awarded as LinkedIn's top voice for the year 2022. He was working in the investment team at the Aditya Birla Ventures venture capital arm of Aditya Birla Group, where he used to look at fintech closely. Prior to that, he was an EA to the chief economist of Aditya Birla Group, Dr. Ajit Ranade, and he used to assist him in his work. Last but not the least, he is author of the book Acing CA and is also co-authoring a book titled Unicorn Secret, where he's interviewing 20 unicorn founders of India and laying their success stories in it. We're really looking forward for the book, Kushal. So we are really excited to hear from you, and welcome to the session.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Naya, for the wonderful introduction.
Thank you so much, Naya. We have heard intros of Rudesh sir and Kushal sir now, and we all know how fruitful this session will be for us. Rudesh sir and Kushal sir on one screen, motivation ka full power pack hai ye to. So, without wasting more time, I hand over to Rudesh sir now and Kushal sir.
Sure. Uh, thank you so much, Harshit, for this amazing MOC that you've done, and thank you, Rahil and Naya, for the amazing introduction that you gave. I hope that was all introduction was professional. And Kushal, I am sure I don't have to give any personal introductions now, right?
No, actually, no, actually, I just wanted to ask you, after listening to your introduction, I wanted to ask you, how many hours do you have in a day? That's the question I want to ask.
All 24 hours, 24 hours. I think, but before that, let me thank the entire Vasai branch, Akola, and Dhule branch for organizing this webinar, because at this time, getting students webinar organizing, I know how difficult that task can be. Thank you so much, Amit sir, chairman from Vasai branch. Thank you very much for being there. Ababhai, Vikasa chairman, and Krishna Purohitji, the treasurer from our Vasai branch, and all these students, the Vikasa team, to be there, and the Akola and the Dhule branch for planning out this webinar. Thank you so much for, at this peak hour, out of our audit season, planning for students this webinar. Thank you so much, sir. I think, can we just start off the session, sir? Sure. Okay. Done. Yes, so Kushal sir, I think as we discussed, let's start the way we plan to. So can we have a quick know in the message how many of you have exams either in May 23 or November 23 or May 24? You can just write down May 2, M23, N23 or M24. Let's have in quick chat box that we know. So a lot of people from May 23 are here. So we're going to be directly touching upon those points. I think that's going to be where we here is what are the things that we need to actually keep in mind, in the last 10, 15 days of the examination and, those 16 days, 17 days of examination, whether you're an inter student or final student. I think so since Kushal is here, just few quick questions, Kushal, I'm going to throw upon. And in not a fast round, but, in slow round, I think one of the very great things that a lot of students must have seen is I was very fascinated by the Instagram live, and those last 5 minutes of the Instagram live that used to run those, the quick questions. So that was amazing. I remember those. So I think that were amazing. So very first thing that, just because in the last 10 days, it is utmost, even whether you have studied, whether you're a ranker, whether you're not a ranker, average student, and you've been a ranker, single rate ranker in all the 3 levels of CA examination. What is that one thing that went in your mind during those last 10 days and during the 15 days of exam, and what do you suggest to students?
Yeah, sure. So firstly, before I answer this question, it's an absolute honor and privilege for me to be a part of this. So thank you so much for having me. I mean, I feel very, very honored right now to talk to all the students who are going to give their exams in the next few months or next few years. So I think answering your question, right? What was more critical in the last 10 to 15 days is having that sense of clarity that, okay, even if you're not getting the time to finish the entire syllabus, what not to read is more important than what to read. So during the last 10 to 15 days, what I used to do is that I had already highlighted in my first reading कि क्या पढ़ना है मुझे last के 10-15 दिन में, and that was the only thing which I used to read in the last 10 to 15 days. Ideally, it is very difficult to read the entire module word by word in the last 10 to 15 days because it's not possible. The curriculum is very vast. So you have to just read or revise those questions where you are not confident. If let's say those questions come in the examination, you think you won't be able to answer those questions very rightly. You have to revise them in the last 10-15 days. And apart from that, you have to revise all the things which are in bullet points or all the things which you think can be asked in the examination. That is the mindset. And lastly, what I'd like to say is that it's very, very crucial not to stay panic or maybe not to have that kind of anxiety. Usually what happens is that the more tensed or more panic you are in the last 10-15 days, it will hamper your performance ultimately. So मैं क्या करता था last 10-15 days में I used to think, or maybe I used to listen to some instrumental music, let's say piano waves on YouTube or something of that sort. And that used to keep me very calm and, like just relaxed throughout the exam period as well. So that is very critical. Whenever you are, let's say, going and writing for an examination, right, you have to ensure that you are going with a very free mind, you're going with a very relaxed mind, although it's very difficult to do that. But the more you practice this art of staying relaxed and calm, I think it'll be better for you to write the examination. So I think these are some 3 tips which I'd like to give in the last 10 to 15 days.
Sure. I'll request the participants to keep kindly be muted. I mean, so that it doesn't disrupt our voices. So other participants kindly keep muted. In case if you've got a specific question, please send it in the question box so that we do not miss in the chat box. Great, great. Thank you so much, Kushal. I think that was a very valid thing, as you rightly said. So a very quick suggestion for the people who do not have exams now in May 23, but afterwards is what rightly said by Kushal is when you read it for the first time, you mark and keep what are you going to do during the revision time, which a lot of students do not do. And then at the exam time, we do not know what to leave and what to read because we feel everything is important. But I think it goes right in the planning when you read for the first time that you mark and keep what are the things that are going to be important. And this is something that you will revise on the exam day. Absolutely. What is it that one thing, Kushal, that, did you get a peer pressure, when you're sitting in an examination hall or you're walking to the examination hall, when you're seeing there are like going to be 200 students, when you walk, niche sab khade, there are few who are cool and without a book, and there are few who are, just, with books. So I come from that background who's going to study till that, jab tak wo teacher nahi bolti ke get in the class, get in the class. I am the one who's going to study. I mean, I don't know which, style you are, but what was your this thing or what is your suggestion? When is the student stop studying or reading at that time, or how did you keep that pressure off?
Right. I think it's very, person oriented. Like some people have that mindset ki end moment tak padhna hi hai, and like they have that kind of anxiety ki हाँ जितना late तक पढ़ूंगा या जितना recent तक पढ़ूंगा तो उतना मेरे को याद आएगा एग्जाम में. It completely depends from person to person. Whereas some people are like कि एग्जाम के 15-20 मिनट पहले, आधे घंटे पहले, I don't want to study, I just want to stay calm and so that I can perform the best. So I think it's a personal choice, to be honest. Whatever works best for you, try to give a mock test. If let's say before giving the mock test, you can just stay relaxed for the previous 30 minutes of giving the mock test, then I think that should go ahead with that should work for you. If let's say you're studying for until the last minute and still you're giving the examination and it's going well, I think even that is a good approach. So for me specifically, I used to study till the end moment. Like luckily, like my examination center was just 2 minutes away from my house. And like even in the car where like my where I used to go to the examination center, I used to read even in the car itself. And once I go, so the approach which I had was not to bother or not to care what people are doing or maybe how many people are there. I used to go, I used to just look into my book, I used to read the notes which I had prepared, or maybe like read the summary version and something of that sort. And I used to go to the second floor. Second floor was my examination center, and I used to go inside the room. I used to sit on my chair and desk, and I used to just read until the until the teacher is coming with the paper set, because that was the approach, because I wanted to just stay focused and I just did not want to talk to anyone else until the examination has started. So that was the approach I followed. And one piece of advice would be that just, like try to stay within yourself during this entire period. Like the more you stay with yourself, or maybe the lesser the number of people you talk to, the more peaceful your life is going to become, because of the fact that you won't discuss the answers after giving your examination. You won't discuss with your friends ki tera kitna padhai hua, mera to itna hi hua, tujhe wo question aata hai kya, मुझे नहीं आता है. All these comparison or all these discussions are not going to make sense at all, because what you have studied until the last day, like that is only, you're only going to write that answer at the end of the day. So avoid getting into conversations with all your friends. Avoid getting into conversations of answers after the exam is over. That is something which you should definitely avoid. And don't even check the paper after the examination is done, like going back home and like checking ki answer मैंने सही लिखा कि नहीं. That is done now. You have to focus on the next paper which is there, and just go with this approach that you're going to perform the best in the next examination. So that is something which is very crucial. And lastly, what I feel is that peer pressure is something which is, again, like a very, very common thing which is happening in today's society. So a lot of friends, like usually a lot of people intentionally tell others that, okay, मेरा तो इतना पढ़ाई हो गया, मैंने तो 7 revisions किए, मैंने 6 revisions किए. Ideally, it's again very subjective. Like I got a rank with 2 revisions. There are some people who got a rank with, let's say, even 1 revision. There are some people who flunked even despite doing some 5 or 6 revisions. It's very, very subjective, to be honest. Luck is also something which is critical in order to clear these examinations. Like you need to stay healthy, you need to stay fit, you need to, like if you solve one question just 2 hours before the examination and that same question comes, you're very confident because you're going to solve that entirely correctly. So I think what is more critical here is that you need to avoid any sort of peer pressure. इनफैक्ट मैं तो ऐसे बोलता हूँ कि peer ही मत रखो. ये जो पूरा 4 महीने का जो टाइम है, इसमें just stay with yourself. Peer ही कोई मत रखो. Like don't talk to your friends. And but ultimately, even your friends are matured enough to understand that you have your examinations, and you can discuss or you can talk to them once your exams are over. So I think this is like one approach which I kept even during my examinations.
I think so well said point, Kushil, which is very worth noting, guys. A lot of times we feel, अरे यार हम फ्रेंड से 1 महीना बात नहीं करेंगे तो फिर वो मेरा फ्रेंड नहीं रह जाएगा. I can so totally agree. Sometimes we always thank in my friends group because I cleared in 2010 and that time there was no WhatsApp or there was no even social media, Instagram, LinkedIn that active. तो WhatsApp नहीं था तो हम वही सोचते थे कि बिना WhatsApp होता तो हम कैसे पढ़ाई करते. तो that time it was only के normal वाला phone था जिसपे call करते थे. I still remember with a very close friend of mine, we used to start off 5 minutes of talk related to studies, but बाद में 1 घंटा बाकी की बातें हो जाती थी, कब समझ में ही नहीं आता था. So 1 month before the exam, we actually decided, as Kushal rightly said, 1 month before the exam, we actually decided we'll not call each other. ऐसा हमको कोई डाउट नहीं होने वाला है लास्ट 1 महीने में जो हमारे खुद के बुक्स में नहीं है. We all had our doubts का answers in our book. And we did not speak, like one of my best friends, we did not speak for the entire 1 month, including the exam day. The moment I finished my IDT paper, CA final, the first call coming home, because I used to not carry the mobile unnecessarily with me. Coming home, the first call I made to my friend. So those 35 odd days, we did not speak because we knew it was very difficult कि भाई हम फिर बाकी बातें ही कर रहे हैं और time waste हो रहा था.
Yeah.
So sometimes, as you rightly said, that is very much needed. When you go to an exam hall, वो बहुत मन करता है अच्छा सबसे बातें करो, discuss करो कितना हुआ है. But it is of no use. I mean, आपने क्या पढ़ाई किया है वो the other friend does not know. And you will get, I still remember, to be very frank, 2 bench, ahead of mine, and I'm going to be saying all personal real stories because I do not lie, definitely not on screen or stage. There was one student in an audit paper, probably, he came from an audit background close. And I still remember he was like, अरे audit, आज तो audit paper है, paper 3 audit, अरे audit तो अपने बाया हाथ का खेल है, मैंने इधर का audit किया. And he named all the big companies. And I was like, मैंने इसमें से कोई audit नहीं किया है. And trust me, and I was like, ठीक है, मेरे को जो आता है वो आता है. And after CA results, when I came to know, I had got an exemption. He did not even get 14 audit. तो वो वहां पे आजू बाजू बहुत मिलेंगे, as you rightly said, Kushal, who will say कि भाई हमारा इतना रिविजन हो गया है. That should not something put your motivation down. Absolutely very.
I think Yudish, like very rightly said, because there's no point in, let's say, understanding okay तुमने ये किया वो किया है. मतलब what is more important is execution, right? Like हजारों लोग आइडियाज के बारे में बात करते हैं आज, इवन इन द स्टार्टअप इकोसिस्टम, जस्ट टू रिलेट इट एज एन एनालॉजी, बट इट्स ऑल अबाउट द एग्जीक्यूशन. कौन एग्जीक्यूट कर रहा है? सो सेम थिंग, सेम एनालॉजी, राइट? हजारों लोग बात करेंगे कि मेरा इतना रिवीजन हुआ, मेरा ये हुआ है, बट कितना याद है, कितना एग्जाम में कैसे लिखते हो, दैट इज मोर इंपॉर्टेंट, which is not going to matter कि सामने वाला क्या कर रहा है, but just ultimately focus on how you execute in the exam.
Totally true. Absolutely. Next question, I think a few people have asked in the chat box as well. What do you keep in mind? How do you revise in that 1.5 days?
Yeah.
Can you throw, like, there are few people who are able to revise everything. There are few people who are not able to revise fully. There are few people who are able to revise twice in that 1.5 days. And we have such people as well. So what is that one strategy or what suggestion would you want to give to revise in 1.5 days?
Right. Again, what I feel is that it's not really possible to, let's say, read the entire content in that 1.5 days. What you need to understand is, again, what is more important in that 1.5 days to read. Like your sixth sense should be very strong enough. And I think that'll come over experience. The more you read, the more you know, like get insights and all. And you will easily understand, the more you practice, the more you solve papers, you'll only get to know what kind of questions ICA is asking in the paper. So in that 1.5 days, what I used to do was that, like, on the day of paper, for example, first paper was FR on 1st of November. 3rd November को SFM है. So 3rd November को, after coming back home at 5 p.m, I used to not study at all because I know कि अगर मैं next paper के लिए पढ़ाई करूँगा तो मेरा मतलब ध्यान नहीं लगेगा आज के दिन, because I have slept like for lesser hours in the previous night. I used to sleep by 7:30 or 8 p.m. that day on 3rd November. Or next day, 4th November को I used to wake up at 5 a.m. sharp. And 5 a.m. to then 11:30 p.m. I used to study for the like entire day. And again on 5th of November, जो paper का दिन है, I used to wake up at 5 or maybe 4 a.m. and then I used to study till 1 p.m. So cumulatively, I used to study for, let's say, around 16 plus 8 हो गया around 24 hours in that 1.5 days. What is more important is, again, you should very well mark in your first reading itself कि तुमको क्या पढ़ना है वो 1.5 days में. I used to like use a highlighter proper, and I used to just highlight what I feel is more important, what are the keywords here which I should like learn or maybe which I should memorize on the exam day. And I used to just ensure कि मैं वो keywords लिख रहा हूँ answer sheet में. That is very critical. Secondly, for papers like FR, SFM or any practical paper, there are certain set of questions which you don't know how to solve. For example, बहुत हम लोग क्या करते हैं, audit tick का approach करते हैं कि ये क्वेश्चन है, इसका आंसर दिया है और हम ऑडिट टिक मार्क करते रहते हैं, एंड वी आर लाइक कि हाँ ये टिक मार्क हो गया, मेरे को अभी आता है ये क्वेश्चन. दैट इज अ वेरी रॉन्ग अप्रोच. इफ लेट्स से दैट सेम क्वेश्चन कम्स इन द एग्जामिनेशन एंड इफ यू आर सपोज्ड टू राइट दैट आंसर, half of the times you won't be able to solve that question, and therefore it's very critical that you're solving these questions in your first reading itself. So if let's say you get stuck in that question, you mark it as RR for revise, which I used to do, and then I used to just ensure कि मैं 1.5 दिन में ये सब questions revise कर लूँ. ऐसे भी क्वेश्चंस होते हैं जो तुम लोग सेपरेटली पीस ऑफ पेपर पे सॉल्व करोगे फर्स्ट रीडिंग में और तुमको पूरा क्वेश्चन का आंसर लिखते आएगा खुद से विदाउट रीडिंग द आंसर्स. एंड दीस क्वेश्चंस इवन इफ यू डोंट रिवाइज देम 1.5 days बिफोर द एग्जाम, इट्स एब्सोल्युटली फाइन, बिकॉज यू नो कि तुमने फर्स्ट रीडिंग में खुद से किया था तो एग्जाम में भी आएगा, तुम खुद से लिख सकते हो इसके आंसर्स. So I think that is something which really helped me in order to just revise the entire subject. And for theoretical subjects like audit, law वगैरह, like बाकी जो भी theoretical subjects थे, उसमें I focused only on ICI material. Law के लिए तो मुनीश भंडारी किया था, but ICI material for auditing, and I used to ensure कि जो भी bullet points दिए ना ICI modules में, I am at least referring or revising the keywords which are there. That is something which is very critical. And solving those test your knowledge questions from ICI material, solving as many questions as possible from ICI module, I think that is very, very critical. तो मतलब इस पे मैंने मतलब ऐसा एक कोट लिखा था मेरे बुक में कि ICI material is the Bible, and you know like that material which you should definitely like, that material is something which will definitely help you in order to, let's say, clear or maybe write the right answers in the examination. And it's very important that keywords should match. Examiner is going to check the suggested answers, the model answers with your answer sheet. So you should ensure that the keywords are just matching with the answers in the model answers. That is something which is very critical.
Absolutely, absolutely. As a lot of times, you know, a lot of students, guys, we end up ignoring the ICI module. It does not matter which outside book that you study from, or you know, you study from which classes. As far as you still make sure to refer the ICI module, I think that is one of the most important point, right from an RTP to an MTP. I think that plays a very key factor, because when an institute somebody is going to set a paper, he is not going to refer to an outside author book. That is something needs to be understood by every CA student. So that is something which has to be very critical. It's rightly said, failing to plan is planning to fail. And so possibly when I gave an exam, you know, 10 years back, we didn't have the 15 minutes before 3 hours. You know, it was a 3 hour. There are some seniors who gave exam, they didn't have 1.5 days of study time. You know, for them, exams were in 8 days. It was just back to back. Whereas I think this 1.5 days we got basically an alternate exam started from November 2008 when I was in PCC, intern, CA intern. So it started right from there. So I think, Kushal, when you gave an exam, you had 3 hours, 15 minutes of exam, right? You had that 15 minutes.
Yeah.
So tell me how much, or, you know, how this having 15 minutes, you know, was a boon, you know, before the 3 hour maybe of planning, or what did you do in those 15 minutes for a theory or as well as a practical paper?
Yeah. I think it's a very like critical time, like specifically because of the fact that you're very, like, most of the people are very tense or very nervous, and like once you see the questions, if let's say one or two or three questions are very out of the box, out of the blue, and you're not able to answer them, it usually creates some sort of panic or nervousness. I think during those 15 minutes, what is very critical is that there'll be one or two questions at least where you'll be able to solve each and every question, like you'll be able to solve their answers in a very perfect manner. So just try to mark the priority of the questions which you're going to solve in those 15 minutes. What I used to do is that I used to read all the questions one by one, and then I used to feel like कि अरे हाँ ये question तो मैंने आज कल ही solve किया था, ये question तो मैंने 2 घंटे पहले ही देखा था. So I used to ensure कि मैं one लिख लूँ, and then I used to ensure कि वही question सबसे पहले मैं solve करूँगा, because as it is rightly said, right, like first impression is like the last impression. So first impression जो होगा, it's basically, it should be very very to the point, and it should impress the examiner in the first instance itself. The more you write clearly and neatly and perfectly, examiner will check your questions, the subsequent questions like 2, 3, 4, 5 in that manner कि हाँ यार इसने पढ़ाई किया है, and ये एकदम like he or she is a smart kid. So I think in those 15 minutes, that is very critical. Apart from that, what is more important is that you need to understand that you have to like ensure that you're not going to solve one question, right? Like out of 6, you have to solve 5. There's always one question which is extra. So you have to determine in those 15 minutes कि कौन से questions मैं solve करने वाला हूँ, like पहले कौन से करूँगा, कौन सा मैं नहीं करने वाला हूँ. If one question is very very difficult and you're like ये तो मेरे को आने नहीं वाला है, just eliminate that and focus on the other 5 questions which are going to be asked. That is one thing. And apart from that, I think it really helped me in order to at least ensure that I'll be able to finish my paper or not. So irrespective of, let's say, whether I was able to finish or not, it gave me a clarity of thoughts ki which questions I should tackle first, how should I tackle them, and what are the content. I used to write with pencil, like एकदम ऐसे bullet points में कि इसका आंसर क्या है, because क्या होता है कि कुछ चीजें ऐसे है कि 4:30 बजे पेपर के टाइम याद नहीं आएगी, बट वो तुम्हें 1:45 1:50 के टाइम याद रहती है. So like just so that I am not nervous or I am not panic, तो मैं वो थोड़ा ऐसे पेंसिल से लाइट इसमें लिख लेता था, and then I used to ensure कि हाँ ये पॉइंट है, अभी ये मेरे को elaborate करना है. So this really helped me in order to ensure that I'm writing the keywords. I'm able to recall or recollect what are the answers to the questions. So 15 minutes is definitely a boon. Utilize it in such a manner that you are going to prioritize the questions accordingly, and don't get nervous, don't get tensed at all. If let's say 2 or 3 questions come out of the box and you think यार ये तो अभी मेरे को तो आने ही नहीं वाला है, because there will be in the flow, like let's say you start at 2 p.m. and in the flow by 3:30 4 p.m. you're confidently solving 3-4 questions, and the last 2 questions, even if you're not able to solve it confidently, just write something or the other where you can score at least 10% or 20% of the marks. So I think that is a good approach to follow.
Absolutely. Guys, I think what is more important, these 15 minutes were given for students so that they could plan and not get nervous. What happens a lot of times, we see those paper and we see, अरे यार 3-4 question मेरे को नहीं आ रहे. But let us understand, we don't have to score 100. You're not in a CA exam to score 100, right? So make sure आपको questions कौन से आ रहे. After 3 months, 4 months, 2 months, 5 months, depending on the number of months that you've studied, there will be at least one full question that you will know totally. ना मतलब 5 मार्क या 10 मार्क का एक क्वेश्चन तो हो गया, 5 मार्क के 2 क्वेश्चन तो हो गए जो हमको फुल A to Z आ रहे, जिसमें आउट ऑफ मार्क्स आ सकते हैं. अगर ऐसा एक भी क्वेश्चन नहीं है तो शायद हमने पढ़ाई नहीं करी है. I'll be little blunt, right? I mean, there cannot be a question जो आपको पूरा नहीं आ रहा है, right? I think that is somewhere you need to start. However, I have seen, because in assessment that I do, calling, when students call back papers from institute, and they share it with me कि इसमें sir marks नहीं आया है, and when they show the papers with me and I'm like, आपका first question कैसे wrong जा सकता है? It could be practical or theory. How can your first question, even after getting 15 minutes, how can your first question go ever wrong? Because you thought for 15 minutes, planned up, and which is the first question that you will choose? The one which you know in the best possible manner, right? So even if there are A, B, C, D in question number 4 or 5, whichever question, you don't have to start with question number 1 only. You can start with any question that you know. Out of A, B, C, D, even if you know A, B, and D, you can leave space for C and then move to another question, right? That's something what is very much needed to be done. Just to very quickly share, of course, now ISCA paper is not there. We have paper 6, which is the elective subject. We never had those 15 minutes, and it was just 3 hours of exam. वो 5 minutes before the 3 hours, they used to send us inside, give us supplement sheet and question paper exactly 3 घंटे के लिए मिलता था. I still remember ISCA paper, which is one of those, where you do not remember. एंड बिकॉज मैंने कहा ना मेरे को लास्ट मिनट तक जब तक टीचर भेजती है तब तक पढ़ने की आदत है. द लास्ट क्वेश्चन दैट आई रेड इन द पेपर इसका हैड कम फॉर 8 मार्क्स. मतलब सबसे पहला क्वेश्चन मैंने वही लिखा और जैसे ही क्वेश्चन पेपर मिला एंड आई यूज्ड टू गो थ्रू फॉर 5 minutes. आई क्विकली एंड द मोमेंट आई सॉ दैट क्वेश्चन आई एम लाइक अरे 8 में से 8 मिलेगा. मतलब it has to be 8 out of it because it cannot be even 7.5. Nobody can dare. I mean, how can an examiner give me 7.5 also? Because मैंने अभी 2 मिनट 5 मिनट पहले वो क्वेश्चन पढ़ा है. And as Kushal rightly said, वो भी क्वेश्चन के मैंने सारे पॉइंटर्स जो इम्पोर्टेंट जो हेड पॉइंट्स है वो फटाफट अपने आंसर शीट में लिख दिए. मेक श्योर गाइज यू डू नॉट राइट एनीथिंग ऑन क्वेश्चन पेपर. यू राइट ऑन योर आंसर पेपर. जो भी लिखना है लास्ट पेपर पे लिखो. और लॉट ऑफ टाइम ऐसे घाई में हम लोग क्वेश्चन पेपर पे लिख लेते हैं. And we've had cases where then if the supervisor is strict, he's going to write -5, -10 or take your answer sheet. Make sure you do not write anything on the question paper. These are small silly mistakes which we end up doing and which can cost us big. So I think that is something going to be in that 15 minutes. If you do not know couple of questions, does not matter. If it's a paper is difficult, the paper is going to be difficult for everybody. You just have to make sure to score 40. If it's going to be easy, you just have to try to getting an exemption, right? So that is something which is going to be of utmost importance. Taking to the next question, just so different people have different way of studying practical and theory subject, and I think the approach for practical and theory has been very different. What has been your approach to revise practical and theory subject, in this last time or maybe before that as well?
Right. I think practical and theoretical subjects, right? The most important thing in a theoretical subject is that you need to ensure that you are able to recall all the points or at least the keywords in your answer sheet. So what I used to do is that I used to write the keywords or I used to write whatever are the key points on the top page of the module, and I used to ensure that जो भी ये page का highlight या summary है, I'm writing it down so that whenever you're writing, it's as good as reading it 6 times. So you're able to memorize it much quickly as compared to just reading it manually. So that is something which helped me in order to recollect. Secondly, I used to write section name and section numbers on a separate piece of paper. And I used to ensure that I'm reading that every day in the morning, like whenever I'm revising the theoretical subjects. That really helped me in order to almost remember a lot of section name and section numbers, including the case laws. And I think I almost in my direct tax, indirect tax, all the subjects, I had ensured that I am writing all the section numbers because I feel that it really impresses the examiner if you're coming up with a very good preparation. That is true. I think for practical subjects, it's very important to solve questions on a separate piece of paper. What happens is that people usually adopt the audit approach, which is not recommended, to be honest. If a question is very, very simple and you think, yaar, iska meko paper pe bhi solve karke fayda nahi because I know ki ye meko aa hi jayega, then that is fine. But there are some questions which people only do audit ticks and all, and then they end up like not having or maybe not practicing to solve it on a separate piece of paper. Once you solve it on a separate piece of paper, you can time that question, you can time yourself, and you can see ki tumhara like question complete ho raha hai ki nahi ho raha hai. So that is very critical. So I think practical subjects, you need to ensure that you're solving as many questions as possible. You're solving the mock test paper. You're also like solving questions from the revision test papers. I had solved like from the last 2 attempts revision test papers, 2 or 3, and I also solved like 1 entire mock test as well for practical questions. So this really helped me in order to tackle all the practical questions which came up in the examination as well. Apart from this, I think I referred like on ICI Board of Studies, like that website itself. Like I think there were a lot of amendments and new questions were added in the ICI material as well. So I ensure that I'm solving all those questions as well because chances are high that those questions might come in the examination. So these are like some few tips and tricks which I ensured to study for practical and theoretical subjects. But having said this, it's very, very important to write all these on a separate piece of paper so that you can memorize it very effectively.
Superb. Thank you so much. After this, we've got another question which has come from again audience. Theory papers can be, written as given, or we need to write in our own words, or can we write in our own words? Theory paper needs to be written as it is given, or we need to write in our own words.
No, see, so I think what is more critical here is that the keywords should at least match. So it's not recommended, of course, it's not even possible for a human brain to write each and everything exactly as per ICI material or as per the model answers. But what is more critical is that you should ensure that the keywords in the answer are matching. So whatever are the keywords according to you, they should match. And you can, of course, write it in your own words only. Like everyone has to write in their own words because it's practically not possible to memorize each and every line. But make sure that you're always writing the keywords and you're writing it very short and crisp. don't just write it as if it's like a normal, like any other subject paper where you're writing a 4 marks answer for 3-4 pages. That's not recommended. You have to be very short, you have to be very crisp, and you have to be to the point. Write in bullet points if possible. I had followed that approach of writing in bullet points. And if in case you think that if in case you think that the more you write, the more marks you get, then that's a pure myth. That is not the case. You have to be to the point, and you have to be as crisp as possible.
Super, super. Definitely. Rahul, we're taking, I think Rahul had something that we are speaking continuously. Rahul, the questions that I think we are asking have come from our students only. So Rahul, if in case you've got any specific question, we would be very happy to take your question as well. What we're going to be quickly doing is, if any May 23 students, got any specific question, for their, exams, a very quick thing, we'd be very happy to take them first. And then, we can talk about the 5 month, 6 month, 4 month strategy so that, I can understand the May 23 students time is extremely critical. So what we plan to do is these, things के जो last के 15-20 दिन में याद रखना है चीजें, let's take up those type of questions. And then we're going to be taking all the questions or all the topics that will be helpful to the November 23 or a May 24 student also. Because November 23, May 24 students के लिए बहुत time है यार exam के लिए. तुम थोड़ा ज्यादा ही बैठ सकते हो, but I think May 23 students need to, plan up their studies accordingly. There's another question. How to study taxation before exam? Kushal, that's a question. That is a question for me as well. How to study taxation before exam?
Right. I think taxation before examination, right? Like for me, when I had given in November 2019, I had studied from ICA material itself. And what I had done was I had separately written down all the case laws and section name numbers, as I mentioned, and I had revised that both the days, like in the morning. So I had ensured that I'm revising those section names, section numbers, and case laws. And the practical questions which are there, it's very, very important to write the notes in all the direct tax questions, because what is more important is the explanation that you are giving after the question is solved. You get marks for that as well. So you have to ensure that you are writing notes very properly. So the way I used to solve is that एक पूरा page I used to just draw the format, I used to draw the line and something of that sort. And notes का parallelly section में बना देता था. तो जैसे जैसे एक एक adjustment करता था, उसका note parallelly में लिख लेता था. Even if there is some blank space which remains after your first page and all, that's absolutely fine. It doesn't create an issue. So parallelly making the note section with the computation of income, whatever what the question is, I think that really helped me. And apart from that, it's again very difficult to revise the entire direct tax curriculum in that 1.5 days. So whatever you find very easy or whatever is your strength, just quickly finish that, revise that particular thing. For example, for me, computation of income or PGBP or those kind of chapters, I really liked them. And I did not like the assessment part or the litigation part. So I ensured that I'm doing assessment, litigation, all these concepts on the exam day. And after waking up at 5 a.m. and all the strengths which are there, I'm completing it within 1 day before the exam, which is there. So for example, my DT direct tax examination was on probably 11th or 13th November. So 13 November को जब मैं 15th I think, तो 15 November को अगर एग्जाम है तो 16 तो 14 November I'm studying those topics which I'm not that comfortable with. So that really helped me in order to tackle those questions also in the examination. I think same goes with IDT, same topics in GST, same approach which I had followed for GST as well.
Super, super. Thank you so much, Kushal. So one thing, so there's a question that there is an increased questions on case law, right? So in audits or papers of EIS, or even for that law subject, institute asks, there won't be a direct question. There'll be case made up, and then there'll be a question. So how to best present it? Of course, the best present is going to be, you'll have to give, a lot of students, what happens is they don't give any recognition to that entire case which is the institute has made up. I mean, kindly students understand वो पूरा case बना है, उसको कुछ तो recognition दो. A lot of students don't even put a conclusion line with reference to that case. So I think that is going to be very important. How do you, write? So Kushal, what is your view on that? How do you actually present the case-based question?
Yeah. So I think what is more critical here is that the way you present and the way you, let's say, ideate, the way you communicate your thoughts, that's very critical. I think it's the art of storytelling. So for example, if there's a case law, right, you have to mention facts of the case, name of the case, then facts of the case, analysis of the case. and then you have to mention like it's the relevance, and then finally conclusion. So whenever there used to be any case law kind of a question, I used to divide my answer in the 5 parts which I just mentioned, and I used to draw a line, and then I used to just like write section colon and whatever is the section, then facts colon whatever are the facts, analysis, relevance, and conclusion. This is a good approach to follow. The examiner also feels that okay, it's neatly and clean presented, and I think that also gives an impression that okay, the candidate has come with a very prepared approach. So that is a good format to follow. Apart from that, you have to ensure that you're writing like facts of the case is something which is repetitive. Okay, so even if let's say you write it in 1 line, that's absolutely fine. Don't waste your time writing 3-4 lines just as facts of the case, because that is not going to fetch you marks. Facts of the case are already written in the question. You have to write something which will fetch you marks, which is going to be value additive, which is not there in the question. So I would recommend, even if you don't have the time, don't write facts of the case. Just go directly on the analysis and relevance. That is going to fetch you marks ultimately. So these are some 2 strategies which will help you in order to tackle these kind of questions.
Sure. Thank you. One question. I think in audit, how to learn correct and incorrect ICI don't give marks easily. Let's not blame ICI. Now, of course, for students who are in inter, there is, 14 marks of correct and incorrect, 7 questions to be answered out of 8 questions, 2 marks each. So I think let us understand 1 mark is to write whether it is correct or incorrect, and other 1 mark is to give justification, of that correct and incorrect.
Yeah.
If you're just, I've seen a lot of papers where the sentence is correct, then what does the student do? Student writes correct and repeats the same statement again. Now, but naturally, institute will give you only 1 marks and not even 1.5, because you wrote the same question, the same line in the answer because it was the correct statement. If it is a correct statement, what you need to give a justification line of why that line or a statement is correct. I think that is something which has to be very much understood. It is then when you get a 1.5 or a 2 mark. Anything from your side, Kushal, on the correct incorrect part? This is what is from my side on that.
I think I completely agree with you. Like even for correct incorrect questions, you have to be sure that okay, 1 mark is for correct or incorrect. Even if, let's say if you fluke and if you don't know the answer as well, so agar aapka first ही wrong ho jayega, then you're not going to get marks for the second part also. So whenever if you want both the marks, then you have to ensure the first part, which is correct or incorrect, ये तुम्हारा right होना चाहिए. So I think the way to tackle this is just like ensuring that the questions which you know first, uske answers लिख लो, और जो नहीं आते उसका bluff कर लो, and then quickly write something. So that is a good approach which I had followed, and I ensured that okay, at least I'm completing the paper. So although you don't want to get full marks, full 100 marks, it's not even possible, except a few candidates who can get full marks in SFM, जो हुआ था 3-4 साल पहले. But ideally you should complete 100 marks of paper. So that is something which you should always follow. कि भले ही मतलब 80 marks quality अगर मेरे को आ रहा है, 20 marks जो नहीं आता है, उसमें कुछ ना कुछ fluke करके आओ, कुछ ना कुछ लिख के आओ, so that you at least get 3 to 4 marks, if not 20. So that is what like I had also done. Like एक audit में question पूछा था कि credit card operations कैसे verify करते हैं, and मैंने credit card operations का पढ़ा नहीं था audit के module में. I had skipped that chapter actually. वो possible नहीं था मेरे लिए पूरा पढ़ना 1.5 दिन में. तो मैंने जो बैंक ऑडिट किया था रियल लाइफ में आर्टिकलशिप में, मैंने वही पॉइंटर्स लिख दिए कि क्रेडिट कार्ड्स कितने डिस्ट्रॉय हुए वो चेक कर लो, आरबीआई को रिपोर्टिंग करते या नहीं वो चेक कर लो, समथिंग ऑफ दैट सॉर्ट. सो आई स्कोर्ड 1.5 out of 4. If I wouldn't have written anything, मैं तो 0 स्कोर करता था. At least 1.5 is better than scoring 0. So that's a piece of advice.
Super. Thank you so much. Just last couple of questions and then we take it further. A student has written, and which is very relevant for a lot of students. No matter how many times you read or write anything, end of the day I feel I remember nothing. What to do? So what do you think, Kushal? What is an advice to students?
राइट ये मेरे साथ भी होता था कि मतलब बहुत बार पढ़ने के बाद भी ऐसे होता था कि यार नहीं याद नहीं आ रहा है अभी. द बेस्ट सोल्यूशन फॉर दैट इज like again it'll sound cliche or it'll sound spiritual to be honest, but practice the art of meditation. To be honest, I think that really helped me in order to stay focused and concentrated. Like every morning, even if you just focus on 15 minutes on yourself or just meditate, it really helps you in order to improve your concentration power. That has happened with me. And apart from that, what I feel is मतलब ऐसा कर लो कि अगर सपोज सेक्शन नेम सेक्शन नंबर लर्न करना है तो just write it on a piece of paper. Every day read it for 15-20 consecutive days in the morning when you wake up. And for sure, like on the 21st or 22nd day, you will remember at least half of the section numbers, if not all. So this is something which will help you. And apart from that, I think मैं क्या करता था कि सेक्शन नेम सेक्शन नंबर तो लिख लिया मैंने, मैं उसको ओरली मैं रिकॉर्ड कर देता था सेक्शन नेम सेक्शन नंबर. एंड व्हाइल हैविंग ब्रेकफास्ट, व्हाइल हैविंग लंच और डिनर, मैं मतलब वो हेडफोन्स लगा के मैं वही सुनता था. तो इवन व्हाइल हैविंग फूड वो कान में वो चलता रह रहा है कि सेक्शन नेम ये सेक्शन नंबर ये. तो मैं ये I think this might be extreme to some students to be honest, but I wanted कि मेरे को तो clear करना है examination, तो I can go at whatever extreme it is possible. मैं कितना भी मतलब पूरे अगर 14-15 घंटे भी पढ़ाई करना है, 24 घंटे भी करना है, तो मैं करने को तैयार हूँ. So I think वो headphones का strategy मेरे लिए बहुत वर्क किया. So वो repetitively मतलब रोज सुनना, रोज पढ़ना, ultimately वो तुम्हारे दिमाग में आ ही जाएगा. So that is something which really helped me in order to, like just memorize or revise the section numbers.
No, I think that is very correct, and Kushal, that is definitely I can, have done something very similar, so I can so much relate. So I think that totally works what you said, for doing section numbers, because you cannot learn just in one go. I think students, what happens is a lot of times, as I think the way we started off this session, when Kushal said, it is the only difficult thing in CA course is there is a lot of material that we have to study and remember. What is more important, उसमें से आपको याद क्या रखना है और समझना क्या है, so that जो याद रखना है, other key points you write it as it is. जो समझना है, you can use it in your own words and write it in the paper. So, when somebody says, मेरे को, after closing the book, I do not remember. Let us understand, we all have reached, whether you are in CA foundation, inter, final, हम junior KG से पढ़ाई करके यहाँ पे पहुंच रहे हैं. तो हमारे दिमाग को we can remember things. That is how we have reached here. In 10th standard, 12th standard, 2nd standard, whichever, we've always remembered, written some things in an examination. We've understood few things, we've remembered. So of course, that I think that is a very temporary feeling. When we close the book, we feel we don't remember. But the moment I think we sit in an examination hall, in an exam situation, things becomes automatic, when you have revised. And that is where revision helps, as Kushal rightly said. For somebody, it might be able to do in 2 revisions, for somebody in 1, or somebody 5. So depending अपने को कितने time में हो रहा है, and that is where I think the concept of mock tests are very important. Where the institute is trying to have more and more mocks that students can give. So I think that is why it is very important, to give mocks. Just one last question, and then we'll take up all the other questions as well. That's once, and I think Kushal sir has to leave for something. So one last question from, answer from Kushal sir, and then we'll continue answering all the other questions as well. Kushal bhai, your last final tips for a student who is giving this now examination, whether May, November, what is that thing that he has to remember कि भाई clear होना ही है? What is that one thing or two things that you would want to guide?
Yeah, I think so. Probably you can note these resources or note these things down, which I used to practice on a day-to-day basis. There is this YouTube पे there's this music called as relaxing piano waves ocean. तो उसका मैं क्या करता था? I used to listen whenever I used to feel very low or very demotivated. तो उससे क्या कि वो piano waves or maybe relaxing water waves का sound होता है, soothing sound होता है. That repeatedly it revolves or maybe it just lingers in your mind, and it's very easy to just concentrate with that background music because वो continuously चलता रहता है. That is one. Second, Spotify या मतलब ये सब बाकी platforms पे भी there's this concept called as there's this playlist called as white noise for studying. ये मैंने क्या किया था कि white noise for studying से if you let's say play a particular song, play a particular thing from this, इसमें क्या कि एक particular noise होता है जो पूरा continuously चलता रहता है and it increases your efficiency, it increases your concentration power. तो ये second है कि this will help you in order to just stay focused, and even if there's a background noise और आपका अगर suppose जैसे मुझे बहुत लोग ऐसे बोलते हैं कि कुशल you had the luxury of having a separate room, हमारे पास एक पूरा नहीं होता है रूम, हमारे पास मतलब like we stay in a 1 BHK जहाँ पे हम पूरे गेस्ट आते रहते हैं. For them what I would recommend is that तुम ये व्हाइट नॉइज फॉर स्टडिंग का प्लेलिस्ट डाउनलोड कर लो, एंड देन वंस यू लिसन टू दैट व्हाइल स्टडिंग, इवन इफ आपके सामने ढोल या कुछ भी बज रहा होगा ना, यू विल बी एबल टू स्टडी विद दैट एफिशिएंसी एंड कंसंट्रेशन. सो आई थिंक दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच रियली हेल्प्ड मी. Third piece of advice would be that you have to believe in long-term pleasures or long-term enjoyment. Like just avoid going out or maybe avoid getting into any sort of distraction. If let's say you're consuming content which will distract you at the end of the day, don't consume that content. If let's say even like I'm a content creator myself, like I would recommend you not to watch my vlogs, travel vlogs, or my entertainment videos during your exam period, because that is not going to help you at all. I would recommend you not to watch any movie or any sort of series on like any Netflix, Amazon Prime, etc., because that will keep you distracted for the rest of the day. So that is something which I would recommend you to stay away with for the next few like exam days. And once the exam days are over, तुम्हारी पूरी life बची है. You can just spend your time on all these things like whenever you want. Once you have the degree, I think having or maybe spending or watching a movie with a CA degree in your badge would be more pleasure, would be more satisfying than watching a movie without a CA degree. So this is something which I usually correlate with, and that is something which you can also go ahead with. And the last thing which I always keep saying is that you have to keep sacrificing. You have to just focus on your main goal. So if you don't sacrifice for what you want, then what you want becomes a sacrifice, right? You have to keep sacrificing. You have to ensure that you are just focusing on your own goal, be it, let's say, spending more time with your parents, or be it, let's say, talking to your friends, hanging out with them, be it attending birthday parties or something of that sort. Sacrifice all that for a few months, and then ultimately what you want, you'll be able to achieve that at the end of the day.
Totally true. I think it was a pleasure discussing these important pointers, and I'm sure this is going to be things that students are going to keep in mind, during their last days of exam, whether they're giving now or November 23 or maybe later on. Thank you
Right.
so much, Kushal Bhai, for this amazing things. Guys, students, the session is going to be on. Kushal sir has to leave for something, and we'll be
Thanks.
taking all your questions that are going to be there. Thank you so much, Kushal sir. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
thanks
Sir,
everyone. Pleasure
before
talking to
Kushal
you.
sir leave, hello.
Yeah, Kushal sir, Kushal just a minute.
Yeah.
Before Kushal sir leave, I would request Mr. Jainam, our Vikasa committee member, to give a vote of thanks to Kushal sir.
Thank you, Kushal sir, for being available with us out of a busy schedule. It was really very honor having you with us. We really look upon you to be personally to you, and to me, it was personally, this was very helpful. People like you really inspire us so much. So thank you much. Thank you so much again. Thank you.
Thanks, Janam. Thanks, everyone. It was pleasure talking to all of you. Bye.
Thank you so much, Kushal sir. Thanks for taking time out.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, guys. So continuing, I think there are a lot of questions coming up, and one of the most important question that I think of the chats that I have read is we continue ahead. Is our marathon lectures helpful? I think what's going to be talking about. Please understand there. If somebody is going to say something, there is no one size fits all solution, right? मेरे को जो साइज का टी शर्ट आएगा वो शायद हर्षित को वही साइज का टी शर्ट नहीं आएगा और जैनम को वही साइज का टी शर्ट नहीं आएगा अनलेस आई डू नॉट नो वेदर जैनम एंड हर्षित का टी शर्ट साइज सेम है राइट बट डेफिनेटली मेरे को तो नहीं आएगा एटलीस्ट आई नो राइट सो देयर इज नो वन साइज नाउ मैराथन लेक्चर्स विल ऑल डिपेंड उसके पहले हमारा पढ़ाई कितना हुआ है राइट मैराथन लेक्चर्स आर हेल्पफुल व्हेन व्हाट इज गोइंग टू हैपन इन अ मैराथन लेक्चर a professor is going to take you in that one day the entire thing that is going to be a quick revision right but when will I able to revise quickly अगर मुझे पहले से सब कुछ properly पढ़ाई किया है तो अगर मेरा बेसिक पढ़ाई हुआ नहीं है तो मुझे रिवीजन समझ में नहीं आएगा और मुझे लगेगा अरे फैकल्टी तो बहुत फास्ट जा रहे हैं बट जिसको बेसिक पढ़ाई हो चुका है he'll be like very far with the faculty so very much is needed kindly attend marathon lectures provided your first read of studies done very properly if you've not done that your marathon lectures will go overbound right that is something which is let me tell you in our graduation times our professor a classes professor used to do up that एक चैप्टर में 20 सम्स है तो एंड में एग्जाम के लिए हमको सिर्फ 2 सम दे देते विद ऑल द एडजस्टमेंट वो 2 सम रिवाइज कर लो वो चैप्टर पूरा हो गया दैट इज व्हाट समथिंग लाइक अ मैराथन लेक्चर बट प्रोवाइडेड मेरे को बेसिक तो आना चाहिए नहीं तो मेरे को 2 सम नहीं आने वाला दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज गोइंग टू बी ऑफ वेरी मच नीड talking about how do we revise CA Inter Group 1 in 12 to 13 days. Now let's understand very quickly what all things that we need to keep in mind. Now the entire thing is going to be how do you take care of the planning revision strategy. Whether you are giving exams now or afterwards, let's understand is pehle padhai kitna hua hai. Now, the entire thing being, as we were discussing, a lot of time people have got exams now. My sincere request is going to be, the first time when you start reading a subject, make sure you mark and give you 2 options. Either make a separate revision book, तो आप 1.5 दिन में पढ़ने वाले हो. मतलब हर बुक का एक revision book बनेगा, जिसको 1.5 days में आप पढ़ोगे. It could be a theory subject or a practical subject. If that is not the option with you, option number 2. आपके मेन बुक में ही आपको अलग कलर ऑफ पेन या पेंसिल और मार्कर यू नीड टू यूज सो दैट यू नो दीज आर द थिंग्स दैट आई विल रीड ऑन द लास्ट 1.5 days. Now the choice is all yours whether you would want to give for the other book or in that. Otherwise what will happen on the last day in the 1.5 days you will think मैं क्या क्या पढ़ लूं मैं सब पढ़ूं and in that quest of reading everything आपके लास्ट के 2 चैप्टर्स आउट ऑफ 10 चैप्टर्स 8 चैप्टर्स तो पूरे रिवाइज हो जाएंगे लास्ट के 2 चैप्टर्स रिवाइज नहीं हो पाएंगे और लास्ट के 2 चैप्टर का ना इंपॉर्टेंट रिवाइज हो पाया ना पूरा रिवाइज हो पाया प्रॉब्लम कहाँ होगा? क्योंकि आपने वो लास्ट के 1.5 दिन में रिवाइज नहीं किया हुआ है, व्हाट विल हैपन इज योर मेमोरी टू रिमेंबर दोज 2 chapters will be less. And if any one question comes in an examination, you will be like, अरे ये पढ़ा था लेकिन याद नहीं आ रहा. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? Because you could not revise that particular in that last 1.5 days because you could not get time because you were revising everything of the other things. Now that is where this entire revision book or writing down important things become of utmost important. So people who got exams in November or coming May, while you're going to start your studies, make sure, please understand your examinations are like a project, where you need to plan with your books. You have to love your books so that your books love you back. It's as simple as that. It's all a myth when somebody comes and tells me, as somebody was rightly saying, it happens. हम पढ़ रहे शायद हमको. The biggest thing that you should never do, and that's where I was going to share my screen as well. The most important thing that you should never do. Give me 1 second. You become what you believe, right? What is going to happen is very typically what happens is हमको लगता है page 1 खत्म किया पढ़ के. The moment we are on page 2, we start doubting ourselves whether I remember something from page 1 or not. Do not think. Remember, first time पढ़ के किसी को याद नहीं रहने वाला ना. Nobody is going to remember first time पढ़ने के बाद. Correct है? What is it going to happen is first time पढ़ने के बाद आप multiple time revision करोगे. You will write a mock test. You will revise 1.5 days. तभी तो वो automatically 2-3-4 बार revise हो रहा है. So it will stay in your memory. It is the same thing. Do you remember movie dialogues? मूवी तो एक ही बार देखते हो ना थिएटर में जाकर के. फिर भी जब फ्रेंड्स के साथ गपशप कर रहे हैं तभी वो मूवी का डायलॉग याद आ जाता है ना. ये तेरा खून है, ये मेरा खून है, राइट? मूवी के डायलॉग याद रहते हैं क्या? नहीं. It is going to be the same thing because your attention is going to be there. Very important is when you are sitting and studying, do not have your mobile in your hand with a book. You cannot have 2 devices with you. One is a book is your device and another mobile. Keep your mobile little away. 1 घंटे 2 घंटे पढ़ाई के बाद वो मोबाइल को ले लो 5 मिनट के लिए, कोई टेंशन नहीं. That is something very essential you need to understand so that you plan that in that manner. Very essential. What you need to start your subject of studying with that correct attitude and positivity. You can never start, कि मेरे को ये याद नहीं रह रहा है. Do I remember this? How will I study? Way back 12 years back, when I had to clear my CA final, my friend told me, does not matter who other clears, I don't care. I know I have to clear. And I think that sentence stuck with me till date. I don't know whether anybody else is clearing or not. मेरे को पता है मेरे को पास होने का है. मेरे को किसी का बुरा नहीं करने का, but I have to make sure that I study everything best. My paper has to be the best to that examiner in that entire lot. That is going to be something, one of the most important. So let's talk about strategy creations. How do you make strategies? There is no one size that can fit all. Correct है? कोई मोटा होने वाला है, कोई पतला होने वाला है, कोई छोटा होने वाला है, कोई लंबा होने वाला है. Everybody's style of studying has been different over the years, right? So your revision strategies will also differ. A 1 year, 6 month, 3 month, 1.5 month, 2 months, and the last 15 days. So let's talk about your revision strategies. So people who have got exams little further on, as I said, start studying. अगर theory आपको लगता है कि मेरे को पढ़ के याद नहीं रहता है, and if you get enough leaves, make sure you start making notes, and that becomes your main revision book. If you feel your office is there and you do not have leaves, a lot of leaves, it's okay, start reading. Don't think अरे यार रीड करने से मेरे को वैसे भी याद नहीं रहने वाला है तो मेरे को लिखना ही था लेकिन अभी मेरे पास समय नहीं है. Does not matter. Something is better than nothing. That was a very superb example which Kushal gave. उसको क्वेश्चन नहीं आता था क्रेडिट कार्ड ऑपरेशन, but he wrote something from his own of what he had done in an audit. He got 1.5 out of 4. But 0 से तो better है ना 1.5 mark. Every mark is going to be important, right? And that is where your entire planning starts from. So depending on whether you are planning, same goes when you start studying for practical subjects. In the start, make sure at least some questions you are solving. A lot of students do not solve, but हम ऊपर से पढ़ते हैं. क्योंकि क्लास में एक बार हो गया है या फर्स्ट टाइम जब भी हमने करा था हो गया है, and then we just tick mark. ये हो गया, ये आता है, ये नंबर आता है, ये नंबर आता है. Do not. If there are 20 questions, at least 5 से 10 questions तो solve करो properly so that it has gone by your hand, and then few of them you can take mark. In your next revision, it's okay, don't solve, just solve one question so that practice में रहे. Because बाद में आप mock दोगे तब important होएगा. Next, my personal suggestion, revision test papers, mock test papers, RTPs basically, and MTPs of the earlier attempts, apart from your own attempt. Start studying during your first revision itself. Don't keep RTPs till the end. आप बोलोगे सर RTP तो 2 महीने पहले एग्जाम की आती है. I am talking about previous attempts RTPs as well. Pick up last 2-3 attempts RTPs of the ICI. Make them a part of your study module along with your study. Depending on whichever classes that you've gone to, or depending whichever book outside author that you are referring to, make sure you have mapped each chapter to the chapter of ICI module so that you do not miss any particular question. Because kya ho jata hai, remember, when an ICI institute is going to set a paper, they are not going to refer private author books. It will only refer institute module, and institute module is your Bible. So make sure you map your chapter so that one different question in your module you need to know कि भाई ये पढ़ा हुआ है. That is, it will help, and trust me, it helps. Make sure you've done your earlier 2-3 attempts RTPs, and then आपके revision के time पे जब आपका RTP आ जाए उसको पढ़ लो. Earlier 2-3 attempt के mock test papers भी पढ़ लो, right? That is somewhere important. Now, for students who have got बाद में exams for even now, make sure to write mock examination papers, mock tests. A lot of students, what do? Is they just go through the test papers, but they don't write tests. Is there any one student जिसने 10th standard में before exam, what do we call, उसको हम mock papers नहीं लिखे थे? We all used to write multiple mock papers in our 10th standard. Yes, board exams. राहिल कितनी बार mock test लिखा था 10th standard में बच्चा? एक भी नहीं लिखा था, लिखा था.
तो लिखते हैं, प्रीलिम्स तो लिखते ही है.
Prelims उसको बोलते हैं. Sorry, I was forgetting the word. What we used to call prelims, right? जैनम कितनी बार prelims लिखा था 10th standard में? You're on mute.
बहुत बार सर.
बहुत बार, right? Why did we write in 10th standard prelims? Because for the first time there was going to be a magnanimous portion, पूरा portion. It was a pressure के board exam है, सब कुछ है, right? So that we could practice. That's exactly the case here. My suggestion to every student is, आपका first time पढ़ के हो जाए, it's okay, finish off your study. The moment you start with your first time revision, start writing your mocks. Doesn't matter how much you score. Don't be like, अरे यार मेरे को इतना कम मार्क्स आया. Because क्या हो जाएगा, एक बार पढ़ के ना मार्क्स कम आएगा, because your memory will not be that stronger at that point in time. Because you've just studied once and इतना सारा पढ़ा हुआ है. But while you give mocks, you will understand what mistakes not to make. Remember that. I think that is something which is going to be extremely crucial. And that is where it will help of your mock papers. Then when you do a second revision, write down another mock. If you could write 2 mocks at least, becomes best. If you're giving only one group, I would say you should write at least 3 mocks. 3 to 4. अगर आप 2 group दे रहे हो, 2 mocks is something that, and that is the institute also conducts 2 mocks. So whether you write by yourself at home or go to an institute center, outside center, that is your wish. Of course, it is nice if you could go and outside. If not, you know, घर पे बैठ के 3 घंटा शांति से properly like a test लिख रहे हो, very essential, right? Becomes of utmost importance at that point in time. Now, the entire thing being, what do you revise during that 1.5 days of exam that we were discussing earlier as well? Whether you start, जैसे first को exam हुआ, तो first को शाम को आने के बाद, now it's a very personal call, depending आप लोग रात को पढ़ते हो या सुबह पढ़ते हो. There are some students who study in the night, there are some students who study in the day. I won't say that what is better. It all depends on, I have had students and I have got friends जो पूरी रात पढ़ के भी रैंक लाए और जो सिर्फ सुबह पढ़ के भी रैंक लाए. So of course we might think that अरे यार morning पढ़ा हुआ अच्छा रहता है. I might believe that, but if for you night study suit करता है और उससे result आ रहा है अच्छा, तो no problem, continue with that. That is something which will I will tell you. Right? So very specifically, so first अगर आपके papers first को है, third को है, fifth को है, so first को exam दे दिया, उसके बाद 6 बजे तक घर पे आ गए, Now, depending on if you're a night study person or morning study person, you can, study for 2, 3, 4 hours on that particular day, or, just go to sleep. That will all depend. But entire that 1.5 day में, from first से third के बीच में, आपका 20 से 21 घंटे का पढ़ाई इजीली कम से कम हो जाना चाहिए. Very simple. Now ये 20 से 21 घंटे में हाउ कैन यू रिवाइज? बट नेचुरली अगर फर्स्ट टाइम, सेकेंड टाइम, थर्ड टाइम प्रॉपरली मार्क करके रखा हुआ है, all that you are trying to do is you are just going through everything and not trying to memorize now. Please understand the reading technique. जब फर्स्ट टाइम पढ़ा था ना, फर्स्ट टाइम, तभी हमने सिर्फ पढ़ा था, रीड किया था. यू कैन नॉट मेमोराइज इन द फर्स्ट गो, because first time हम समझते हैं. Now what happens is the difficulty if you try to memorize in the first go, तो प्रॉब्लम क्या हो जाता है, अब तक आपने समझा नहीं है, and that is why memorizing becomes difficult. When does memory become easier? When you have understood things. How did you learn A for apple? Because a teacher showed there is something known as apple. Dude, this is an apple when you were in junior KG or a nursery, and this is something A. तो एवरी डे हमको टीचर बोलती थी ये ए है और ये एप्पल है. करेक्ट है? सो बचपन में हमने मैप कर दिया ए और एप्पल हमारे सबकॉन्शियस माइंड में, एंड दैट इज हाउ इट गॉट रजिस्टर्ड एंड वी नाउ रिमेंबर इवन टुडे ए फॉर एप्पल. वी गो बैक टू दैट केस, राइट? आई थिंक अ लॉट ऑफ योर टीचर्स मस्ट हैव टोल्ड वे बैक इन स्कूल टाइम, राइट द टेबल्स 2, 3, 4, 5 का टेबल लिखो सेकंड स्टैंडर्ड, थर्ड स्टैंडर्ड में 5 बार टेबल लिखो, या रात को रोज पढ़ो. Did your teachers tell? स्कूल में थे तभी कभी तो way back? Yes, no, no, yes. Can I get some answers in the chat box, guys? Yes. Why? Because at a frequent intervals, if you do a particular thing, it gets auto registered in the mind. That is the concept and power of a revision. So when you do a particular thing, it gets auto revised, right? That is what you need to do in this last 15 days of स्टडी ऑल्सो. नाउ बहुत बच्चे क्या करते हैं, अभी फर्स्ट को अगर अकाउंट का पेपर है तो स्टार्टिंग के उसके पहले के 7-8 दिन सिर्फ अकाउंट पढ़ रहे हैं, और अकाउंट्स के पहले पेपर 2 पढ़ा है, उसके पहले पेपर 3 पढ़ा है. तो पेपर 8 कब पढ़ा हुआ है? बहुत दिनों पहले. बट आपका पेपर 8 कब होने वाला है? 16 या 17 ऑफ दैट मंथ. इट कुड बी मे और नवंबर, राइट? नाउ व्हाट हैज हैपेंड? देयर इज अ बिग गैप बिटवीन योर पेपर 8 का रिविजन एंड व्हेन इज योर पेपर. मेक श्योर, तो क्या हो जाएगा, जब तक पेपर 7 एंड पेपर 8 आएगा तब तक टू रिमेंबर दैट पेपर 7 एंड 8 विल बी अ डिफिकल्ट टास्क, एंड यू विल बी लाइक आई डोंट रिमेंबर दिस डूड, राइट? दैट इज वेयर द एंटायर माइंड गेम इज गोइंग टू बी, एंड दैट इज व्हाई it becomes most important to segregate your revisions in the last days also, possibly as my personal sense, in the same order of your papers. So even for the last, अगर कुछ बच्चे लोग last 7 days सिर्फ अकाउंट्स पढ़ रहे हैं और एफआर पेपर 1, I would say at least स्टार्टिंग के 3-4 दिन अर्लियर के पेपर्स का भी शेड्यूल बना करके 2 घंटे तो भी निकाल लो, so that there is a continuity, right? And that is why the final revision that you do of 2 day in the final month, April in this case, or October for a case of November, has to be one subject at a time. Remember this. आप स्टार्टिंग में पढ़ रहे हो या फर्स्ट रिविजन कर रहे हो, यू कैन डू 2 subjects at a time, no problem. But when you're doing 2 subjects at a time, as a suggestion, do not pick up 2 theory subjects together. Pick up 1 practical, pick up 1 theory. So थोड़ा सा मैच होता है तो थोड़ा मजा भी आता है. थोड़ा प्रैक्टिकल कर रहे हैं, थोड़ा थियोरी पढ़ रहे हैं तो थोड़ा ठीक रहता है. However, when you come for the last revision, make sure you're just revising 1 subject at a time. So that आपको जब 1.5 दिन में एक ही सब्जेक्ट पढ़ोगे ना, it becomes a very useful thing. Suggestion to everybody who's got a May exam now, stop eating between 2 to 5. Do not eat, do not sleep between 2 to 5. Very important. अगर आपको 2 बजे खाना खाने की आदत है तो एग्जाम के बीच में 2 बजे भूख लगेगा, दिमाग ऑटोमेटिकली स्लो चलता है. We all have heard 21-day rule, right? And a lot of us believe also 21-day rule, but we do not want to put it into application, right? 21-day rule किसी किसी को 15 दिन में काबू कर लेता है माइंड, किसी किसी को 30 दिन लग जाता है, डिपेंडिंग ऑन हाउ स्ट्रॉन्ग विल पावर इज योर्स. इट इज ऑल बिलीफ सिस्टम. स्टॉप ईटिंग और स्टॉप स्लीपिंग बिटवीन 2 to 5. 2 के पहले जो करना है कर ले, 5 के बाद जो करना है कर लो अभी से, फॉर पीपल हु हैव एग्जाम्स इन मे. तो लास्ट के 10-15 दिन 20 दिन पहले से ये सब आदतें डाल लो, सो दैट एग्जामिनेशन में वो थोड़ा सा काम कर जाए, राइट? दैट बिकम्स ऑफ utmost importance. All these things will be then taken care of. जो पढ़ा है वो अच्छे से याद आने लगेगा. It is as simple. I am very, अगर हम यहाँ तक पहुंचे, whether you are in CA final, CA inter, हमारे दिमाग में वो ताकत है. We could remember things. That is why we are here today. You studied first standard, second standard, fifth standard, 10th standard, 12th standard, graduation, CA foundation, inter और final में पहुंच गए. जो इंटर में पहुंच गए. Correct है? Because we could remember things, we could understand things, and we could represent that in a paper. It is as simple as that. So make sure we start with that logic. So 1.5 day में I revise 2 times because मुझे बार-बार रिविजन की आदत है. मैं तो 1.5 दिन में 20 घंटे में 2 बार रिवाइज करता हूँ. फर्स्ट को पेपर जैसे ही 5 बजे खत्म होने के बाद 6 बजे तक आ गया, तो उस दिन शाम को रात को 2-3 घंटा पढ़ लिया, फिर 10 बजे सो गया. नेक्स्ट दिन सुबह 5-6 बजे उठ गया, पूरा दिन पढ़ाई किया, तब तक मैंने एक बार पूरा पढ़ लिया. एंड देन थर्ड को वापस सुबह 5-6 बजे उठ के दोपहर को वो 12-1 बजे तक जब तक एग्जाम है, तो तब तक सेकेंड टाइम भी हो गया मेरा. तो आई एम अ हैबिट ऑफ 2 टाइम्स रिवाइजिंग. सो डिपेंडिंग ऑन हाउ, इफ यू थिंक कि नहीं मेरे को बार बार रिवाइज करके थोड़ा अच्छे से क्विकली याद आ जाएगा, डू दैट. इट जस्ट डज नॉट मैटर, बट दैट हैज टू वर्क फॉर यू, राइट? दैट इज वेरी समथिंग वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. सर ऑडिट को कैसे रिवाइज करें 1.5 डेज में, इतना वास्ट है. मोहित राज वही तो बोला है ना, आप जब फर्स्ट टाइम पढ़ रहे हो आपको समरी करके रखना पड़ेगा. आइदर अलग से रिवीजन लिखो, रिवीजन सीरीज का बुक लिखो, या वहीं पे आपको मार्क करना है. अभी किसी चीज का लेट्स से व्हाट आर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स और व्हाट आर ऑडिट प्लानिंग का डेफिनेशन एंड प्रोसीजर. You don't have to study the entire 1 page of audit planning का procedure in that 1.5 days. No, वो तो पहले पढ़ा, समझा, रिमेंबर किया. अभी आपको सिर्फ 5-6 जो पॉइंटर्स है उसी को रिमेंबर करना है, राइट? दैट इज हाउ यू विल फिनिश अप योर थिंग्स. करेक्ट है? वेरी स्पेसिफिकली. ओके, there is there any, please address my question after considering. Don't worry, I'm going to take all of your questions. In case if any question में miss out कर जाता है, Harshit, Rahil, I mean the coordinators, please let me know if I miss any particular question. Cool. Okay, so that is something which is going to be very important. Now, a very quick thing for the last 3.5 hours of examination is, I feel there are important points. These are the 4 important points that you need to remember 3.25 घंटे के लिए. 4S in your life: speed, selection, sequence, and smartness. Your speed has to be of utmost importance right from the start. अगर तुम स्टार्टिंग में बहुत अच्छे हैंडराइटिंग में और वही मजे लेके लिख रहे हो, बाजू में देख रहे हो कि कौन क्या कर रहा है, तो गाड़ी निकल जाएगी. सिलेक्शन ऑफ द क्वेश्चन, एज राइटली सेड बिफोर ऑल्सो, राइट? कुछ क्वेश्चन इट इज क्वाइट पॉसिबल 1-2 क्वेश्चन आपको नहीं आएगा. Though we will say as a faculty, as a mentor, professional, student, teacher, मैं बोलूंगा कि 100 मार्क का पेपर लिख के आना है. But please understand, when I say this, everybody knows there are very less number of students, very rare students जिसको 100 का 100 मार्क का पेपर आता है. Correct? Do you all agree to this line? There are very less number of students who knows all 100 marks का पेपर. Do you agree? Yes, no, no, yes. कुछ तो लिखो चैट बॉक्स में, थोड़ा सामने लिखो. Yes, right? So what do we mean by it? You need to, जो आता है उसको तो अच्छे से लिखो, बट 100 में से 50 मार्क, 100 में से 40 मार्क को तो अच्छे से आता है ना. 100 marks of paper में से, do you know 40 marks? Now, one of the very important thing is, do you know 40 marks exact? Definitely yes. It could be practical or a theory. Which is those 40 marks का question you need to find? That is your selection of the question. Now sequencing, which you will write first, जो सबसे अच्छे से आता है and in the best possible manner, ताकि 40 में से the minimum mark that you need to score is 36 or 38. You cannot afford to score anything below 35 in out of 40, because those are the questions that you know exactly word to word things. Correct है? उस 40 मार्क्स में से अगर आपको 35 भी मिल रहा है, उसके बाद और 30 मार्क के क्वेश्चंस, 30-40 मार्क के क्वेश्चन में से आपको और 20 मिल रहा है, और लास्ट के 20-10 आपको नहीं आता है, तो भी आपने कुछ तो लिखा है, उसमें से 2-3-4 मार्क मिल रहा है. I'll talk 20% of marks उसमें से, तो 4 mark out of the last 20. Still you scored 50 plus already, right? So that sequencing becomes, I've seen a lot of papers of institute from students where first 2 questions have gone wrong. How? तो 15 मिनट हमने क्या किया becomes very important. Smartness, remember, the examiner do not know you, I mean examiner don't know you personally, right? Examiner आपको नहीं जानते. Examiner को आप जो present करते हो ना, first, second, third answer, उससे वो जानता है कि बच्चे को कितना आता है. So if you're trying to make an impression, right? Just tell me, when it's your first day in any new class, it could be college, it could be articleship office, in the classes, क्या एकदम ऐसा एकदम मस्त हीरो वगैरह बन के जाते हो या नहीं जाते हो? Did you do that or not? Come on, everybody, your first day of articleship. Did you do that? Yes? Right? We did, right? All of us. That's exactly going to be there. Right? Your first 2 things, which is going to be of utmost important, because the examiner is going to make an impression of you कि बच्चे को कितना आता है. That's exactly the key point out there. A lot of us fail to understand that. Right? However, my suggestion क्या हो जाता है, क्योंकि फर्स्ट ऑर्डर क्वेश्चन क्या कर देते हैं, लॉट ऑफ पीपल लाइक अरे ये आता है, फटाफट फटाफट लिख देते हैं. रिमेंबर, जो पहला क्वेश्चन दिख रहा है उसमें से 4 में से 3.5 भी नहीं मिलना चाहिए. आई वुड से 4 out of 4 मिलना चाहिए और 5 out of 5 मिलना चाहिए. It should be that quality, meaning properly underlined and all of those things has to be there. Right? That is something very essential. Underlining and everything, when will you do? Of course, in the last 5-10 minutes of the thing, becomes extremely essential of how do you do up things. Keep little spacing. I've seen a lot of papers जहाँ वो लास्ट का लास्ट का मार्जिन लाइन है, वहां तक बच्चे ने लिखा हुआ है. एग्जाम का पैसा भरा क्या नहीं भरा, एग्जामिनेशन फॉर्म का तुमने इंस्टीट्यूट में पैसा भरा ना, तो टेंशन क्यों लेता है? इंस्टीट्यूट तुमको देगा पेपर, फिक्र मत करो. तुम सप्लीमेंट मांगोगे और सप्लीमेंट देगा, टीचर बोलेगी ले भाई और सप्लीमेंट दे. राइट? So don't write till that last line, don't avoid as many cancellations. Now, depending on how many cancellations do you make, उससे समझ में आता है, but faculty को या examiner को कि बच्चे ने mock papers लिखा नहीं लिखा, क्या किया. It is, see, one odd cancellation here or there, everybody understands because you're giving CA exam. But if there are multiple just cancellation in an, in an answer, in a first, second answer, absolutely, yes, Jen. Confidence level gets judged, right? So make sure you're little calm in the start. Divide your paper. Correct है? मतलब अभी जैसे कि 100 मार्क का पेपर है, let's say 10 मार्क्स का क्वेश्चन आंसर मेरे को आता ही नहीं है. I am going to assume. तो 90 मार्क्स आता है, करेक्ट है? 30 मार्क्स, 30 मार्क्स, 30 मार्क्स. First 1 hour में the minimum marks of paper that you need to get done is 30. Correct me if I am wrong. 30 से ज्यादा ही होना चाहिए, 35 होना चाहिए, but the minimum, किसी का स्पीड स्लो भी है तो मिनिमम 30 में से कितना आना चाहिए? 30 में से 28, 29, 30 आना चाहिए, right? Becomes most important. The next 1 hour you're again going to write 30. थोड़ा अच्छे से आता है, थोड़ा अच्छे से नहीं आता है. उस 30 में से शायद कितना आएगा? 18 और 20. 28 plus 18 कितना हो गया? 38 and 47. 48, 46. You already scored 46 in the first 2 hours of an examination. As simple as that. Right? I've given you 60 marks का पेपर लिखे, तुमको 46 मिल गया. Important is picking up those right questions. That is how you write the 3 hour 15 minutes of exam. So one of the very first, where a lot of people are asking the same question again and again कि अरे बाद में लास्ट में रिवाइज कैसे करने का. Students, let me tell you, अगर आपका फर्स्ट रीड प्रॉपर होगा ना, तो आपका रिविजन प्रॉपर होगा. अगर फर्स्ट रीड ही प्रॉपर नहीं होगा, तो देयर विल ऑलवेज बी प्रॉब्लम इन रिविजन. क्योंकि हमारा पूरा प्रॉपरली पढ़ाई नहीं हुआ है, तो वो रिविजन प्रॉपरली बैठ ही नहीं पा रहा. फिर क्या करते हैं हम? वी कीप रिवाइजिंग ओनली, और फिर वो रिविजन का माहौल खत्म ही नहीं होता है, बिकॉज कहीं ना कुछ छूट गया है. एंड लेट अस अंडरस्टैंड, दीपिका पादुकोण जी ने ये जवान ये दीवानी में कहा है, जीवन में कितना भी कर लो, कुछ ना कुछ तो छूट ही जाएगा. बराबर है? देखा कि नहीं? सो इट इज ऑलवेज गोइंग टू हैपन, राइट? Important is, as we were discussing during the earlier time also, as Kushal also rightly said, what not to do you need to know. तो उसके हिसाब से पहले वाली चीजें कर लो. That becomes one of the most important pointer, right? becomes yes. Okay, there are some questions which I'm going to take from the question box. Does changing the sequence of answering questions affect our marks? No. लेकिन अभी जैसे क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 ABCD, क्वेश्चन नंबर 2 ABC, क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 ABC है, करेक्ट है? यू कैन स्टार्ट विद क्वेश्चन नंबर 3, फिर क्वेश्चन नंबर 4 लिखो, फिर क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 लिखो, फिर क्वेश्चन नंबर 6, नो प्रॉब्लम, बट द सब क्वेश्चन ऑफ दीज हैव टू बी रिटन टुगेदर. सो क्वेश्चन नंबर 3 ABC हैव टू बी टुगेदर. उसके अंदर पहले C लिखा, फिर A लिखा, फिर B लिखा, चलेगा, जरूर नहीं ABC लाइन में लिखो, करेक्ट है? सो लेट्स से अ क्वेश्चन, इफ यू हैव अ क्वेश्चन नंबर 4 जिसमें ABCD है and you know A properly, B properly, D properly, C नहीं अच्छे से आता है. It's okay, it's good to start with that question. Question number 4 A लिखो, question number 4 B लिखो, question number 4 D लिखो, और फिर C के लिए जगह छोड़ दो, पेज छोड़ दो, and then बाद में वापस आ जाओ, no problem. तुम बोलोगे सर कितना पेज छोड़ना है? 1 पेज छोड़ देना, 1 slide, no problem. If you feel, you know, उतना तो हम लिखे, उसमें आधा पेज भी लिख दिया. Now let's understand. आधा पेज भी लिखा है, 4 लाइन भी लिखा, तो भी every question has to start on a new page. तो क्वेश्चन नंबर 4 के बाद जो तेरे को नया क्वेश्चन शुरू करना है वो वैसे भी नए पेज पे चालू करना था, तो एग्जामिनर तेरे बारे में बुरा नहीं सोचेगा कि अरे इसने 3 ही लाइन लिखा, राइट? सो डू नॉट वरी, इतना मत सोचना, करेक्ट है? अच्छा, somebody is asking sir, can we have an access of recording of the seminar as well disconnected for 5 minutes? Dear, I think access ये record हो रहा है, so I'm sure the branch में भी, you know, they will upload you know, this thing. Rahila, are we going to upload this?
Yes, we are going to.
Yes, sir. We are going to.
Super. Thank you so much, sir. Please follow the, you know, Instagram channel of Vikasa Vasai, so they will, you know, put up those things as well. Absolutely. Okay. There is ऊपर से एक, I think I've missed particular question. Just do keep, let me know ऊपर से if I miss any question. अभी मे के लिए, अच्छा, tips for law. अच्छा, tips for guys, in case if I missed any ऊपर का question, just rewrite it back again. Absolutely no problem.
The tips on AS someone has asked.
Okay, accounting standard or auditing standards?
Accounting
That's what-
standards, I think.
Okay, ठीक है. अच्छा, tips for any AS हो, SAs हो, accounting auditing standards हो, you know, IFRS standards हो. Please understand these standards are what? These are application based, right? These are application based. So what is important is to understand, remember those definition, वो standard क्या बोलता है, and then उसका application समझ में आना जरूरी है. So at accounting standard at inter level also, but let us understand inter में accounting standard में what happens is there are not core directly sums which are asked. You know, 10 मार्क का सम नहीं, आपको 5 मार्क का क्वेश्चन शायद पूछ लेंगे, और you are going to be asked the theory. So those remembering those concepts becomes very much important for accounting standard. Absolutely yes. Right now, tips for law, as somebody was asking, is please understand law ka is going to be same thing, concept important, but a lot of students study the concept, but the moment you come to presentation of answers, please understand, the moment case based question pucha, example, you know, A and B are partners together in a firm AB and company, they've had an agreement so and so, what is the law, and then फिर end में question पूछ ला, theoretical question, what is the law related to these, please answer. काफी बच्चे क्या लिखते हैं, A and B के बारे में उन्होंने कुछ नहीं लिखा, पूरा का पूरा लॉ क्या बोलता है वो लिख दिया, आंसर खत्म. अगर ये 5 मार्क का क्वेश्चन है, आपको मैक्सिमम 3 मार्क मिलेगा, बिकॉज ना आपने ए के बारे में लिखा, ना बी के बारे में लिखा, ना एबी कंपनी के बारे में लिखा, ना आपने कंक्लूजन लाइन दिया कि फाइनली एबी कंपनी को ये करना चाहिए जो क्वेश्चन में पूछा था. आपने तो एक जेनरिक क्वेश्चन डाल दिया. अभी तुम बोलोगे सर पूछा तो मेन क्वेश्चन का आंसर ही है ना, बट नेचुरली है, बट इंस्टीट्यूट को हमने ही तो बोला है ना, प्लीज आस्क अस प्रैक्टिकल क्वेश्चंस, हमको केस बेस्ड क्वेश्चन पूछो, हमको सिर्फ थियरी क्वेश्चन मत पूछो, मेक सीए कोर्स मोर प्रैक्टिकल ओरिएंटेड. एज अ स्टूडेंट वी ओनली टेल, राइट? So institute made up a case which is a practical oriented one. So you'll have to give justice to that. So at that time also question also said we are going to put down relevance section, you know, analysis, and then you know facts of the case and then conclusion. So either आप ये mention करके लिखो या paragraphic form में लिखो, that is something which has to be done. You know, very specific. मोहित is asking sir exam में theory subject में कितना लिखे? 3 और 5 मार्क के लिए. बहुत सिंपल चीज है भाई, 3 और 5 मार्क के लिए एक साइड, 1 साइड ऑफ द पेपर तो लिखना ही चाहिए, अनलेस वो आंसर उतना है ही नहीं तेरे बुक में तो नो प्रॉब्लम. बट ऐसा बहुत रेयरली आएगा कि 5 मार्क के लिए पूछा जिसका आंसर इतना ही है इंस्टीट्यूट के बुक में, बहुत रेयरली ऐसा कोई क्वेश्चन आना है. सो फॉर अ टिप, सो व्हाट वी जनरली कीप इन माइंड इज 4 मार्क के लिए वन साइड ऑफ द इंस्टीट्यूट पेपर इज समथिंग दैट वी नीड टू राइट. My request, sorry, it just came to my mind. My request for a lot of people who are going to write mock exams also by खुद से, प्लीज पिकअप. आजकल ना मार्केट में इंस्टीट्यूट आपके एग्जाम में जैसा पेपर मिलता है ना, वैसा ही पेपर मार्केट में स्टेशनरी के पास मिलता है. सो वैसे ही पेपर में लिखे मॉक पेपर. डू नॉट राइट इन योर ओन फुल स्केप वाला बुक, बिकॉज वो साइज अलग होता है. then you're not able to judge that. Please go and take those papers. जब आप mock खुद से लिखो अपने घर पे, तो वो चीजें लिखे. So for 4 marks, one side is something which is normal on an average. 6 मार्क का रहेगा तो मैं बोलूंगा एक और थोड़ा सा ज्यादा on 1 and 1/4 and 1 and 1/2 is something that you need to write. Right? Can you please guide for May 24 new course preparation? How should we approach? The biggest हल्ला बोल across CA students is new course आएगा May 24 में, हमारा क्या होएगा? I am here, Abbas sir is here. Let us guys understand. As we are aware, institute has put up that proposal, which the MCA, it is awaiting approval from the government. Now let us understand whether you are in CA final or in CA inter. अगर आप CA inter May 24 currently institute के book site पे दिया है CDF पे that the current books relates to November 23. Correct? Meaning which we are thinking कि May 24 में शायद हमको इंटर या फाइनल में नया कोर्स देना पड़ेगा. Will the account subject be same as per you are aware, right? I hope all of you have read on the website of ICI. It is given नए कोर्स में क्या होने वाला है सब्जेक्ट. बराबर है? क्या टैक्स होने वाला है नए कोर्स में जो करंट कोर्स में है? बट नेचुरली यस. तो क्या तू अभी वो पढ़ सकता है? बट नेचुरली यस, तो पढ़ ले बच्चा. करेक्ट है? आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट सीए इंटर. क्या अकाउंट्स होने वाला है? करंटली इट इज अकाउंट्स 1 एंड अकाउंट्स 2, दैट इज पेपर 1 एंड पेपर 5 ऑफ अकाउंट्स. इन द न्यू कोर्स देयर इज जस्ट गोइंग टू बी वन अकाउंट. तो ये पूरा का पूरा मर्ज हो जाएगा. करेक्ट है? तो क्या वो सब्जेक्ट रहने वाला है? बट नेचुरली यस. कैन यू स्टडी नाउ? बट नेचुरली यस. वेदर लॉ इज गोइंग टू बी देयर, कंपनी लॉ तो रहने ही वाला है, जो करंट कोर्स में भी है, न्यू कोर्स में भी प्रपोज है. कैन यू स्टडी टुडे दैट? ऑफ कोर्स यस. सो प्लीज स्टडी. क्या कॉस्टिंग होने वाला है? न्यू कोर्स में भी है, ओल्ड कोर्स में. आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट सीए इंटर. कैन यू सिट एंड स्टडी टुडे? बट नेचुरली स्टडी. क्या एफएम होने वाला है? यस. कैन यू स्टडी दैट? बट नेचुरली यस. सो एटलीस्ट देयर आर 5 सब्जेक्ट्स जो करंट कोर्स में भी है और जो May 24 में अगर नया कोर्स आ जाएगा तो उसमें भी होने वाले हैं. So why do you want to sit and worry whether it will be there or not? A lot of students are being, कह रहे हम क्या पढ़ाई करें. Please understand, there are going to be same things. Same goes for CA final also. As it is proposed, what is proposed कि शायद CA final में law and costing वाला सब्जेक्ट नहीं रहेगा. बट उसके अलावा 5 सब्जेक्ट सेम होने वाले ना, FR, SFM, ऑडिट और डायरेक्ट टैक्स एंड इनडायरेक्ट टैक्स, राइट? तो 5 सब्जेक्ट तो पढ़ो. करेक्ट है? सो माय रिक्वेस्ट इज, as some साक्षी विभाग के हाउ डू वी अप्रोच द सेम. ये 5 सब्जेक्ट जो सेम है वो पढ़ लो, थिंकिंग दैट इट इज द सेम. So when institute will inform all of us together on the website, तभी हम accordingly चीजें पढ़ेंगे. And let me tell you, if there is any foundation student also here, I come from that same batch जब भी portion change हुआ था. Exactly same situation में. 2006 February I gave my 12th standard exam, Feb 2006. तभी it was CA P1, P2 चलता था तभी. करेक्ट है? मार्च में P1 के क्लासेस चालू हो गए, तो हमारा P1 एक साल बाद आने वाला था. और सडनली जून में इंस्टीट्यूट ने बोल दिया कि अभी P1 गेट स्क्रैप्ड टोटली. P1 वाज ऑल 4 सब्जेक्ट्स इन रिटन, एंड जून में CPT गॉट इंट्रोड्यूस्ड, which is all 4 subjects MCQ based. तो जून में our entire books got reversed. So P1 के सारे बुक्स को हमने रख दिया बाजू में और CPT का बुक्स ले लिया जो इंस्टीट्यूट ने हमने दिया. I come from that batch जहां जून में फाउंडेशन चेंज हुआ और November 2006 onwards CPT got introduced. But we never got panicked. So my suggestion to all the students, do not get panicked, chill. If you have an exam in May 24 of inter and final, or if somebody foundation students in November 23 and you think अरे नया कोर्स आएगा, currently जो है वो पढ़ो, do not worry. At least जो सब्जेक्ट सेम रहने वाले वो तो पढ़ लो. जो शायद चेंज होने वाले जो दिए हुए हैं, it is there on the website, उसको मत टच करो चाहिए. Right? I hope I have given clarity. I have completed 3 subjects of study till now. Attempt is in November 23. Please advise to go for both group or single group. My suggestion is if you've studied 3 subjects, make a current timetable. चारों सब्जेक्ट एक ग्रुप का पूरा पढ़ाई कर लो और फिर देखो अभी और एक पूरा ग्रुप हो पाएगा कि मेरे हिसाब से अगर आपको पूरी छुट्टी है तो बट नेचुरली हो जाएगा डियर, बिकॉज नवंबर 23 में अभी अप्रैल चल रहा है, तो मई जून जुलाई अगस्त सितंबर अक्टूबर 6 महीने है, करेक्ट है। तो 3 महीने में भी आपका पूरा एक ग्रुप का स्टडी हो जाता है, उसके बाद 3 महीना टू प्रॉपर्ली रिवाइज बोथ द ग्रुप्स, which is far. So definitely you can still do it. And I'm assuming that you are asking from inter perspective, right? How to avoid getting confused while writing that the answer written is right or wrong? Answer written is right or wrong, not to get confused in theory papers is if you learn by heart or if you read. हम क्या करते हैं, बहुत सारे स्टूडेंट सिर्फ आंसर को लर्न बाय हार्ट करते हैं, क्वेश्चन को भूल जाते हैं. Does this happen? Just answer me yes or no in the chat box. Does it happen a lot of times in an examination? You know कि फ्रेंड तू पहली लाइन मेरे को बता दे, उसके बाद तो मैं पूरा का पूरा लिख सकता हूँ. क्या बहुत लोगों के साथ ऐसा होता है कि यार हर्षित पहली लाइन तू बता दे, उसके बाद तो देख मेरे को पूरा आंसर आता है. Does that happen? Let me know yes or wrong. Yes or no? Yes. Why does that happen? There is a very psychological way towards that. वो इसीलिए होता है क्योंकि हमने हमेशा आंसर को लर्न बाय हार्ट फ्रॉम द फर्स्ट लाइन ऑफ द आंसर से किया है. तो इसीलिए हमारा लर्निंग पैटर्न इन द माइंड क्या बैठा है, वो फर्स्ट लाइन द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ, वी ऑलवेज स्टडी द कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स ऑफ दिस थिंग, द फीचर्स ऑफ दिस थिंग आर ब्ला 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 ब्ला, द फीचर्स ऑफ दिस थिंग आर दिस. दैट इज व्हाई हाउ वी हैव, सो हमको किसी को बताना पड़ेगा, कोई बताएगा ना द फीचर्स ऑफ दिस इज, सो वी रिमेंबर. इफ यू आर ऑफ द लर्निंग स्टाइल, लर्न फ्रॉम द क्वेश्चन लाइन. अगर आप क्वेश्चन लाइन से लर्न करते हो ना, तो क्वेश्चन लाइन तो एग्जामिनर ही देता है ना अपने को पेपर में, तो किसी को देने की जरूरत नहीं पड़ेगी. सो यू विल नेवर बी कंफ्यूज whether you've written a correct answer or not. This happens now. This issue किसको होता है? Typically it's subjects like EIS, SM में ये वाले issues होते हैं for people who are in inter. Or that used to happen a lot of times in ISCA, for that matter. Those things used to happen. So make sure, guys, you study from the question line and not just answer line. So this your issue will get cleared. Can you please brief the 5-month revision strategy for CA final November 23? Very simple 5-month revision strategy. मैं assume कर रहा हूँ रिविजन स्ट्रैटेजी कोई 5 महीने की नवंबर 23 के लिए पूछ रहे हैं. खुशबू, आर यू इन इंटर और फाइनल? सो अगर आप फाइनल में, मैं दोनों का आंसर दे देता हूँ. मैं समझ रहा हूँ अगर 5 मंथ का रिविजन स्ट्रैटेजी आपका है तो आपका पहले एक बार पढ़ाई हो चुका है. व्हेन आई यूज द वर्ड पढ़ाई, मतलब आइदर खुद से एक बार रीडिंग हो चुका है या तो आपने क्लासेस करे हुए, तो एक बार हो चुका है, फिर आप रिविजन शुरू कर रहे हो, राइट है. तो द फर्स्ट टाइम इज, this is your first time of your self revising. Make sure I would generally suggest is pick up 2 subjects at a time, unless आप ऐसे एकदम बहुत साहसी हो जो 10-10 घंटे एक ही सब्जेक्ट कभी स्टार्ट में पढ़ सकते हो, करेक्ट है, तो ताकि बोर ना हो जाए. तो then you can always pick up 2 subjects, एक प्रैक्टिकल एक थियरी. Start, make that planner first, very specifically. If you're not making plans, becomes very difficult. Let plans go amended. Revision time, no problem. Does not matter. Plans change होते रहते हैं, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. हर दिन ऐसा नया प्लान चिपका देने का सामने, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, राइट. सो मेक दैट प्लानर कि 5 months के उसमें कि स्टार्टिंग के when will you finish off all the things. So typically my thing is going to be 8 to 10 days if you're studying full day. Typically on an average of 8 days, on an average of 8 to 10 days, you can study one full subject as a revision. On an average of 10 days, 8 to 10 days. Correct है? So if you are in CA final, क्योंकि अभी elective paper भी आ गया है, which will not take 10 days. Correct है? So typically और 70-75 days में आपका first revision हो जाता है. Correct है? So typically 75 days is something. So 7 subject को 70 days, एक सब्जेक्ट इलेक्टिव को 5 दिन मैंने दिए, 75 डेज में हो गया, करेक्ट है. सो दैट इज 2.5 मंथ्स हो गया. उसके बाद के 2.5 मंथ्स में यू स्टार्ट विद रिविजन. नाउ योर फर्स्ट टाइम इफ यू स्टडीड फॉर 10 days, एंड मैंने यूज द वर्ड 10 days, मतलब अगर एक सब्जेक्ट 10 days लग रहा है तो 2 सब्जेक्ट पढ़ रहे हो तो 20 दिन जा रहे हैं, बट नेचुरली, राइट. सो यू प्लान इन दैट मैनर. नाउ यू रीस्टार्ट अगेन, typically like a 5-day odd revision series. राइट. सो 5 8 और 40 days. So आपके रिमेनिंग 75 days में से 40 days में आपका एक रिविजन हो गया. Where I would personally suggest it, write a test also. Revise, write a test so that you are able to remember and reciprocate in a paper. Right? So अभी first 75 days हो गया. The remaining 75 days में से 40 days of revision हो गया. कितना बचा 75 में से 35 odd days, right? Then you pick up another revision series. अब ये last 35 days में it will all depend आपको एक ही बार रिवाइज करना है या 2 बार रिवाइज करना है. करेक्ट है. नाउ दिस इज अ वेरी पर्सनल कॉल डिपेंडिंग ऑन योर इंडिविजुअल मेमोरी. यू नो, मेक 2 रिविजन्स और 1 रिविजन. 2 रिविजन्स कैसे करोगे? तो एक रिविजन हो जाएगा 2-3 दिन का एंड एक रिविजन हो जाएगा 1 डे, लाइक अ क्विक थिंग, यू नो, जस्ट रिकैप थिंग ऑफ, यू नो, चीजें जो आपको डिपेंडिंग हो रहा है. करेक्ट है, राइट. सो दैट इज समथिंग विच इज गोइंग टू बी. अगर आपको लग रहा है नहीं मेरे को, यू नो, 12 3 36, तो हमने 35 डेज गिनने हैं. करेक्ट है. सो 8 3 24. अगर आप 5 दिन 5 दिन 3 दिन भी लगा रहे हो, सो 8 सब्जेक्ट्स, 8 मतलब मैं 7 ही गिनने वाला हूँ. 7 3 21 और लेट्स से इलेक्टिव को 2 दिन लग रहे हैं, 22 23 डेज. करेक्ट है. आउट ऑफ 35 डेज योर 22 डेज आर गॉन. सो नाउ यू आर लेफ्ट विद लास्ट 12 डेज. करेक्ट है. लास्ट 12 डेज इज टिपिकली लाइक 1 day, 8 subjects odd, or last के 4 दिन is the first subject, that is the paper 1 that you are going to revise. Did you get me? All that I'm trying to say is what is this going to happen is this will set you in a flow pattern of your revision. Now इसमें individually you can make your math depending. अगर आपको कोई you know subject difficult लग रहा है, किसी को शायद आपको 7 दिन लगेगा, किसी को 11 दिन लगेगा. That individual math you'll have to do it. That will have to individually structure, personalized structure, right? That is going to happen. So that is what your basic 5-month revision strategy for a CA final, right? Acha, somebody has asked, what is this question? How many days give in first exam accounting? मैंने वही dear बता दिया. Starting के 3-4 दिन आपने दिया, उसके पहले properly revise किया हुआ है तो no problem. तो starting के 4 दिन में, you know, दे दो, कोई tension नहीं. Is it a good idea to try to score exemption in 2 subjects if you are not ready for 4 papers? Not really. But it all depends. मतलब, are you saying कि मैं सिर्फ 2 subject? Now, please understand, बाकी के 2 पेपर्स आपको कितना आ रहा है, उस पे भी अगर बाकी के 2 पेपर्स में तेरे को सिर्फ 5 मार्क आएगा तो बहुत डिफिकल्ट है. From the institute side also, the other 2 papers में तेरे को 60 आ जाएगा. The other 2 which you are trying to say score exemption, your paper has to be of that quality level कि भाई 60 को टच नहीं करना है, 80 आना मांगता है, right? So it is fine then, absolutely. So make sure that ठीक है वो 2 सब्जेक्ट को एकदम ज्यादा अच्छा पढ़ो, बट जो रिमेनिंग 2 सब्जेक्ट से अगर कुछ ही नहीं हुआ है तो यू नो यू हैव नो चॉइस. बट अगर थोड़ा अच्छे से पढ़ाई हुआ है तो थोड़ा रिवाइज करके वो वाला भी अच्छे से दे दो. यू नेवर नो, शायद 4 पेपर निकल जाए. करेक्ट है. दैट इज समथिंग व्हिच इज गोइंग टू बी इंपॉर्टेंट. Next question. Starting to push, most of assume tend to forget, keep on track. Of course not. Sir, I've given CA. No, it's okay. Starting question, most of time is consumed, tend to forget, keep on track. Achha, somebody is saying during exam writing, how do we keep track of the time and everything? Right? Your watch is something जो ऐसा पेपर लिख रहा है इधर सामने होना मांगता है बाजू में. After every 15-20 minutes, after every writing answer, तुम्हारा दिमाग, it should be right there. It is like if I have to give a speech for 5 minutes somewhere, I keep my timer on stage ताकि मैं टाइम को एक्सीड ना करूं, ताकि अगर 4 मिनट हो जाए मेरे को पता हो कि भाई मेरे कुछ कवर करना है तो लास्ट 1 मिनट में करूं. That's exactly the same thing, right? So you need to know you're not over crossing the time also. तो वो हर 20-30 मिनट्स के बाद यू नो इम्पोर्टेंट. दैट इज व्हाई आई सेड ना कि स्टार्टिंग के 2 घंटे में 60-70 मार्क्स का तुमने पेपर लिख दिया. You've done justice to yourself here. Do not worry and don't get panic, right? That is something you will have to do it up. Sir, I've given CA final exam 2018, not cleared and currently working for past 4 years. Can I start now CA final study fresh? But naturally, yes, dear. क्यों नहीं कर सकता? I mean, let me first of all salute to any student sitting here who is giving attempt second time also. फिर चाहे वो इंटर हो फाइनल, ट्रू सल्यूट टू यू गाइस. आई डोंट थिंक सो आई एवर हैड द कैपेसिटी टू गिव एन एग्जाम अगेन. इट इज स्टिल पॉसिबल गाइस. सो डेफिनेटली है. आदित्य सिर्फ क्या है, ऑफकोर्स थोड़ा मोमेंटम आने में शायद टाइम जाएगा, क्योंकि 4 साल से अगर बुक नहीं अपन ने उठाया तो थोड़ा सा मोमेंटम आने में टाइम जाएगा. बट डोंट गेट डिसहार्टेंड विद दैट कि वो मोमेंटम स्लो जा रहा है. व्हाट हैपेंस इज, डू नॉट कंपेयर योरसेल्फ विद समबडी हु इज स्टडीइंग, लास्ट 1 साल से जो पढ़ रहा है, क्योंकि आपने 4 साल से नहीं पढ़ाई किया है ना, तो आपको मोमेंटम वापस आने को शायद थोड़ा टाइम लग जाएगा. बट इट इज स्टिल डेफिनेटली पॉसिबल डियर. राइट है. तो एक एक ग्रुप करके दे दो अगर आपके पास टाइम नहीं है तो, इफ यू आर वर्किंग ऑल्सो. राइट. तो एब्सोल्युटली यस, करेक्ट है. सो डेफिनेटली यस यार, एक एक ग्रुप करके दे दो, नॉट एट ऑल अ प्रॉब्लम. आई हैव गॉट समथिंग ऑन माय स्क्रीन. As I rightly said, failing to plan is going to be planning to fail. So make sure you keep planning your strategy revision wise. The last one, which I think, I have to say that in the 3 hours of examination, जैसे 15 मिनट हो गया, आपने sequencing mark कर लिया है, ABCD, make sure pointers लिखो, underline करो. The moment 2 hours and 45 minutes is done, I would generally suggest is keep the pen aside, पेंसिल उठाओ, फटाफट जो इंपॉर्टेंट पॉइंटर्स है उसको अंडरलाइन करो इन 2-3-4 मिनट्स, सॉरी मैक्सिमम. करेक्ट है. अंडरलाइन करो एंड देन स्टार्ट राइटिंग अगेन फॉर द लास्ट 10 मिनट्स. राइट. वेरी एसेंशियल टू मेक श्योर योर प्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ द स्टार्टिंग 20 पेजेस ऐसा थोड़ा मस्त किया हुआ है, becomes very essential. Right. The last one which I've got, and then we can take more questions also. For me, there are 3 important R for a CA exam. Of course, ये movie के लिए तो it was rise, roar and revolt, but for me it is not rise, roar and revolt definitely. So for us, there are going to be 3 RR. अच्छा, this is the photo next to this RR of CA exams is as same as जैसे हर LinkedIn post में आजकल एक unrelated photo होता है and that becomes viral, right? LinkedIn का एल्गोरिथम वैसे ही चलता है. वैसे मेरे पीपीटी में हर प्रेजेंटेशन स्लाइड के ऊपर मेरी एक फोटो लगी है which is no way related to that thing, right? तो ठीक है, इसलिए फोटो का कोई रेलेवेंस नहीं है, बट मेरे को बहुत इच्छा थी, मेरे फोटो भी लगा देते तो लगा देते. इट्स द सेम थिंग जैसे LinkedIn पोस्ट में लगाते हैं हम लोग, बस और कोई नहीं है. करेक्ट है. So 3 RRR of CA exam is the first R. Please remember, if you've not read well, you will never be able to revise well. It is very myth. अगर पहली बार की पढ़ाई अच्छे से नहीं होगी ना तो बाद में बहुत डिफिकल्ट होता है, बिकॉज क्या है फिर then we will have to keep on finding, अच्छा ये पढ़ लूं ये पढ़ लूं ये पढ़ लूं. तो my sincere request to everybody who has an exam in November 23 or maybe May 24 or later on, first time का स्टडी ना make sure properly करा हुआ है, so that you mark your notes. As I said, so I प्रैक्टिकल सब्जेक्ट का भी मैंने रिवीजन बुक बनाया था. प्रैक्टिकल थियरी का तो हम बना दिए, प्रैक्टिकल सब्जेक्ट का मैंने क्या करा था, if there is one sum, if there is one chapter जिसमें 10 sums है, 10 sums में हर sum में there are 5-6 adjustments, तो हर 5-6 एडजस्टमेंट तो अलग नहीं है, बराबर है. हर क्वेश्चन में 5-6 एडजस्टमेंट से एक ही एडजस्टमेंट या 2 एडजस्टमेंट जो अलग रहेगा, बाकी तो सबका सब कुछ सेम रहेंगे. आई मेड श्योर हर एडजस्टमेंट का मैंने एक समरी बनाया कि ऐसा आया तो क्या करने का, ऐसा आया तो क्या करने का, ऐसा आया तो क्या करने का. व्हेन आई स्टडी फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम, आई मेड अ रिवीजन बुक, तभी के तभी वैसा हो गया. तो एक रिवीजन बुक में मैंने लिखते गया. ऑन माय रिवीजन डे ऑल आई डिड वाज उस चैप्टर का एक सम सॉल्व किया टू नो द फॉर्मेट, ताकि मेरे हाथ कांपे नहीं. एंड दिस हैड हैपेंड विद मी इन इंटर. सो इन माय सीए इंटर आई डिड नॉट राइट एनी टेस्ट. So I remember the first paper accounts, my hands shivered because I didn't know what to write. Typically, because the question came in and I was, इसका format ऐसा बनाओ, ऐसा करूँ, क्या करूँ. So then when I came in CA final, I was like, I'll have to devise a plan for this. तभी webinar, seminar इतना सब नहीं चलता. तो I devised in that manner plan. तो उस हिसाब से mock लिखे थे. तो एक सम की एंड बाकी हर एडजस्टमेंट जो मैंने मेरी रिवीजन बुक में करा था, आई न्यू कि ये एडजस्टमेंट का ये आएगा, इसका ये सोल्यूशन, ऐसे का ये. आई मेड श्योर टू रिवाइज दैट. सो इन दैट मैनर माय रिवीजन ऑफ एवरी चैप्टर वुड हैपन इन 1.5 hours. So you'll have to read well. It could be theory or practical. The moment you read well, make sure you've added a note in theory, whether you've underlined या तो हाइलाइटर से मार्क किया या बाजू में समरी लिखा है, या एक दूसरे बुक में लिखा है. It all depends on your style. You revise well. The third R, which is going to be of utmost importance as per me, while some may have seen also somewhere, I do not know. So what do you think is the third R? ये इधर नहीं दिया हुआ है, but I would want some answers in the chat box. What is the third R that you think is there? Read, revise. What do you think is the third R answer? Anyone, please guess. You can definitely guess. Janam is writing. Hardik is writing. Vishnu, recall, register. I think somebody wrote correct. The one of the third R is read, revise, rest. You heard me correct. Please understand, if you've not rested well, you will never be able to recollect well or reciprocate well. You'll never be able to revise or remember things well. When I use the word rest, does not mean कि हमको भाई 10 घंटा सोना है. Do something which your mind needs. As I said, I am no one to tell you कि सुबह पढ़ो या रात को पढ़ो. Something that is working for you from the last 10 years will work for you in the 11th year also. Something that did not work for the 5 years, it will not work because Rudiesh Pankhania came and told you that this will work, it will not work for you. Make sure you find out what is that working for you. मैं एग्जामिनेशन में भी ऐसा बादाम काजू या ग्रेप्स विप्स ऐसा लेके जाता हूँ, एप्पल विप्पल. तो ऐसा 1 घंटे बाद मैं ऐसा खाता हूँ, तो मेरे आजू बाजू के बच्चे मेरे को बोलते क्या पागल आदमी है. बट आई नीड दैट इन बीच बीच में थोड़ा ऐसा, तो दिमाग फटाफट चलता है, तो मैं ऐसा करता हूँ. अगर तुमको ऐसा लगता है तुम्हारे लिए करेगा, डोंट थिंक के बाजू वाला क्या सोचेगा. कुछ नहीं सोचेगा. वो एग्जामिनेशन हॉल में मिलेगा, फिर तेरे को भूल जाएगा. राइट? इफ यू रेस्टेड वेल, it improves your awareness, concentration, definitely yes. It helps to restore your energy and definitely your memory as well. Make sure, and that is why I say, एग्जाम के टाइम पे अगर आपको है कि मेरे को 4 घंटे की नींद के बाद भी मेरे को फुल पढ़ना है, नो प्रॉब्लम, पढ़ो, कोई टेंशन नहीं. इफ यू थिंक नो, अगर मैं प्रॉपरली रेस्ट करता था, दैट इज व्हाट यू नो, वेयर आई एंड कुशल वी वर टॉकिंग, I studied till the end moment, even he studied till that end moment. There is somebody who's going to, you know, पहले आधे घंटे पहले बुक्स बिक्स बंद, फिर सिर्फ ध्यान करेंगे. No problem. Both are correct. There is nobody who's right or wrong. See what works for you. That has to produce results for you. If it does not produce results for you, there is a problem. So you need to check up whether that is working for you or not, right? That's from me. And I'm going to be happy to take more questions, but I thought I'll just put this slide to an end. Definitely, yes. Of course, you can connect me on Instagram, LinkedIn, you know, anywhere on the social media. That's my number as well, but not difficult to find me on social media with a correct spelling and correct spelling of my name and surname. There's only one Rudiesh Pankhania on the entire social media with this correct spelling. So do not worry, you'll be able to find well. There's a question which has come. Could you please suggest preparation strategy timeline? Take a second. Readings revision for both the groups of intermediate November 23. Okay, dear. So typically, let's understand the revision strategy timeline. For most students who are giving intermediate November 23, आपके typically classes, most people मैं assume कर रहा हूँ classes जाते हैं, तो ये 9 महीने के classes जाते हैं because foundation आपने जनवरी में आपका रिजल्ट आया रहेगा, राइट? तो तब से आपने क्लासेस शुरू कर दिए. मोस्ट स्टूडेंट्स के क्लासेस अराउंड अगस्त तक खत्म हो जाते हैं. सो देन यू हैव 2 months, दैट इज फुल सितंबर एंड फुल अक्टूबर, राइट, फॉर एग्जामिनेशन रिविजन. As a student who has an inter exam, while your classes are getting conducted, what is most important for you is, right, first time of revision should be done while the classes are on. Why? Because जब आप इंटर का एग्जाम दे रहे हो, ये 9 महीने जब पढ़ाई कर रहे हो, तब आप आर्टिकलशिप नहीं जा रहे. For a CA final student, it is very difficult otherwise to study because he goes, अगर नवंबर 23 में एग्जाम है, तो वो जून जुलाई तक ऑफिस भी जा रहा है, क्लासेस भी कर रहा है, पढ़ाई भी कर रहा है. So he cannot revise what has happened in class. He can either do class or do revision. Cannot do both otherwise. Right? Yes, because he's going to an office. For a CA inter student, you are going for a 7-8 hour of class, you are going for a 3 hour of college, which is your 12 odd hours. typically you have to find that 2 odd hours of revision time के जो पढ़ाई हो गया है classes में उसको तभी के तभी revise कर लो. So your first set of revision should automatically get done by the month of August along with your studies. Then you start with your first revision in the month of September and October. You do 2 revisions with your mocks assigned. Right? So make sure जैसे ही I think most classes try to finish by 15-20th of August. So make sure तब तक आपका properly revision हो चुका है. Of course, you know, couple of chapters जो end में हुए July, August में या some subject, that is all right. You have just done, so that is fresh in the mind. So in the month of September, make sure आपको revision के लिए शायद 5 और दिन लगेगा, 5 days per subject, 5-6 days. Because आपका first set of revision along with your classes हो चुका है. So you can do 2 subjects in a day because at the inter level एक ही subject को पूरा time पढ़ना difficult हो जाता है because when you are studying in a class or by yourself also you are studying 2-3 subjects at a time. So एक subject अभी उठाना in the month of September becomes very difficult. So no problem if you pick up 2 subjects at a time. Absolutely not a problem. But my request is write mock tests at that point in time. The moment you finish, write down. Does not matter how much marks do you get. अगर आपको आधा आंसर याद आ रहा है तभी सितंबर के महीने में तो रिमेंबर नवंबर में जब एग्जाम देगा तभी पूरा आंसर याद आएगा बिकॉज तब तक तूने 2 बार रीड किया है नवंबर तक और 2 से 3 बार रीड कर लेगा तो तब तक पूरा आंसर याद आ जाएगा रिमेंबर दिस सो मेक श्योर यू बाद में यू आर गोइंग टू स्टडी फॉर 10 11 12 odd hours मेक श्योर डू समथिंग यू नो फॉर हाफ एन आवर 1 hour विच सूट्स यू कोई फुटबॉल खेलने जाता है कोई 1 घंटा क्रिकेट खेलने जाता है कोई मेडिटेशन करता है कोई अनुपमा सीरियल देख लेगा कोई यू नो गाने सुन लेगा कोई जिम जाके आएगा डिपेंडिंग आपको आधा 1 घंटा जो यू नो आपको थोड़ा चिल देता है वो करो कोई टेंशन नहीं राइट सो दैट इज समथिंग समबडी हु हैज गॉट अ डायरेक्ट एंट्री स्टूडेंट आई कैन अंडरस्टैंड आपका आर्टिकलशिप भी चालू है आपको इंटर भी देना है तो अगर क्लासेस के साथ थोड़ा थोड़ा रिवीजन के साथ अगर आपका ऑफिस टाइमिंग वगैरह सूटेड है एंड इफ यू आर एबल टू गिव बोथ द ग्रुप्स then give both the groups otherwise give group wise one group and second group please understand for direct entry student agar aap whether you clear both the groups together or you clear one group and then second group aapka CA final attempt will not get pushed further right so do not worry so आपकी आर्टिकलशिप शुरू हो चुकी है सो आपका 2.5 साल के बाद CA फाइनल लॉक इन हो चुका है सो डिपेंडिंग आपका आर्टिकलशिप का टाइमिंग और क्लासेस एंड आपका पढ़ाई give one group at a time if you think you know मैं 8 सब्जेक्ट साथ में नहीं कर सकता somebody is writing sir टैक्स में कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं आ रहा है कॉन्फिडेंस सब सब्जेक्ट में आना डिफिकल्ट है डियर टैक्स में मेरे को भी कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं आया क्या करने का इंपॉर्टेंट इज यू डोंट हैव टू जिसमें कॉन्फिडेंस है उसमें एग्जामिशन लाओ जिसमें कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं है उसमें 40 लाओ 60 + 40 100 डिवाइड बाय 250 दैट इज व्हाट यू नीड फॉर पासिंग सीए एग्जाम्स इसीलिए इंस्टीट्यूट भी देता है कि एक में 60 आया एक में 40 आया तो इट इज मैनेजेबल स्टिल राइट टैक्स इज अ सब्जेक्ट वेयर यू विल हैव टू मेक समरी नोट्स otherwise becomes very difficult because the portion is humongous whether you are in CA inter or CA final correct hai so make sure you make summary notes of every chapter either udhari yeah you know in an else book summary book that is what you'll have to do it in tax dear correct did I miss any question before that no coordinators guys did I miss any question guys if you got any more question happy to take happy to help or anytime you know I think we all of them are at your service at ICI sir I think you've had an amazing thing just one last thing from me in a quote form which I totally believe बोलने वाले बोल के जाएंगे मैं आ जाऊंगा कुशल सर आ जाएंगे हम सब आ जाएंगे बोलते रहेंगे वीडियोस आ जाएंगे यूट्यूब पे आ जाएगा इंस्टाग्राम पे आ जाएगा फाइनली पढ़ाई आपको करनी है लास्ट के 1 महीना कोई वीडियो देखने की जरूरत नहीं है ये दिमाग में डाल दो और सिर्फ खुद के पास बुक है वो पढ़ो दैट इज गोइंग टू बी ऑफ अटमोस्ट इंपॉर्टेंस 10 साल पहले जब यूट्यूब नहीं था तब भी हम पास हो रहे थे उसके 10 साल पहले कुछ नहीं था तो भी लोग पास हो रहे थे आज भी हो रहे हैं राइट सो यू हैव टू नो व्हाट यू गॉट योर स्टडीज थिंग लास्ट के 1 महीने में आईसीआई वेबसाइट पे कोई ऐसा अचानक नोटिफिकेशन नहीं आ जाएगा कि अरे ये भी आ जाएगा और ये डिलीट हो गया इट विल नेवर हैपन करेक्ट दैट इज नेवर गोइंग टू बी द केस सो डोंट वरी अबाउट दैट थिंग्स जो आता है वो अच्छे से आता है जो अच्छे से पढ़ा है उसको अच्छे से प्रेजेंट करना वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट है. ऐसा नहीं है कि भाई पढ़ लिया, बट इंपॉर्टेंट इज व्हाट यू नोन आल्सो, राइट? So make sure a lot of motivation is nice. Motivational thoughts are good. Motivational actions are going to better. So make sure you execute things. That is what is my thing. For more, happy to connect anytime. Thank you so much, everyone. Over to the coordinators, or if there are any more questions, happy to take.
Hello,
Yes,
am I audible? Sir, can I ask one question?
go ahead, go ahead.
सर मेरे स्टूडेंट्स के लिए मेजर डिस्ट्रैक्शन स्पेशली फॉर बॉयज इज वी ऑल नो आईपीएल चल रहा है, तो
Okay.
आईपीएल कैसे अवॉइड करें वो आप बताओ बस.
May 23 के लिए तुम बोल रहे हो?
हम्म.
अगर May 23 में आपका एग्जाम है, आपको पता ही नहीं होना चाहिए कि आईपीएल है. सबसे पहली ये बात हो गई. You should not
Yes,
even
but
know that there is IPL.
स्टडी करते करते बीच में बाहर चल रहे टीवी में देख लिया आईपीएल है. आईपीएल इज नेक्स्ट लेवल
मैंने क्या
डिस्ट्रैक्शन
बोला?
सर.
You should not even know that there is an IPL. मैंने अपनी बेस्ट फ्रेंड से एक, एंड जो मैंने तभी बात किया ना, that was a real thing. मैंने मेरी बेस्ट फ्रेंड से 1 महीना बात नहीं किया, बिकॉज हमने रियलाइज किया कि हम 5 मिनट डाउट सॉल्व करते हैं और 1 घंटा पंचायती करते हैं. So then like, let's not call each other. From 22nd of October, and हमारा examination 8th November CA final का शुरू हुआ था, which ran till 22nd of November. I'm good with dates and memories, right? So
Sir, that kind of motivation we all need.
उसके लिए important है सीए एग्जाम दे रहे. अपने एग्जाम के टाइम पे व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट? आईपीएल वाला विराट कोहली पैसा कमा रहा है, तेरे को कोई घर नहीं देगा. वो घर खरीदेगा,
True, true.
अनुष्का शर्मा घर खरीदेगी, धोनी भाई खरीदेंगे, तेरे को नहीं घर आके देंगे ना. अपने को तो सीए बनना है, अपना एग्जाम देना. करेक्ट है? So we have to give our exam, we have to study. What is my duty at this point in time? It is very simple. You've kept a webinar from 6 to 8. Correct है हर्षित? अभी
Yes,
it
sir.
is very much possible. No, मैं भी ठीक है, वेबिनार चल रहा है, थोड़ा थोड़ा बोलते रहूं, थोड़ा मोबाइल में देख लूं, थोड़ा करते रहूं. Can I do that? No, because I know I am committed 6 to 8 years for a webinar. So my entire attention and focus has to be towards this one, because students are removing time. You know, we all believe on those man days. We are chartered accountant students and chartered accountant members, right? How do you calculate man days? कि अगर मैं ये 2 घंटा कुछ टाइम पास करूंगा तो सिर्फ मेरा टाइम नहीं बिगड़ रहा है, बट जितने लोग हैं into 2 hours. So the number of hours is that much, right? That is why you have to calculate. So IPL चल रहा है, कोई टेंशन नहीं. It is as simple as that. हर्षित, IPL
Yes, yes,
वापस
sir.
YouTube पे भी देख सकते हैं ना, वो मैच रिकॉर्ड हो जाता है ना. और आजकल तो ये हॉटस्टार वगैरह सब जगह भी रिकॉर्ड हो जाता है, थैंक्स टू जियो. तो टेंशन नहीं है. बाद में एग्जाम के बाद
हाँ.
देख लो ना, क्या टेंशन है? एग्जाम के बाद
True,
बैठ के
true.
पूरा दिन देख लो, राइट? सो आई अंडरस्टैंड. सी समटाइम्स इट बिकम्स वेरी दिस थिंग, यू नो, कि अरे दिस इज देयर, बट you cannot do everything in life, right? You want to marry Aishwarya Rai, you want to marry whosoever, you cannot get Aishwarya Rai, yaar. Dude, you are not Abhishek Bachchan, you're not going to get Aishwarya Rai. Correct है? So you know, ऐसे दिमाग में वो सब डालने का ही नहीं कि आईपीएल है तो है, अपना क्या है, अपन सीए स्टूडेंट है अभी के लिए तो, राइट है? जिसका नवंबर 23 में एग्जाम में, वो लोग आईपीएल देखो ना, कोई टेंशन नहीं. करेक्ट है? Even I had November. It is students who have November exam make bigger sacrifice, because August, September, October in India are filled with festivals. करेक्ट है? बट कुछ नहीं, कुछ फेस्टिवल वगैरह कुछ नहीं, बाद में वापस आएगा फेस्टिवल. If you are a Garba fan player, कोई टेंशन नहीं. The only time I have not played Garba was in November 2010 when I had my CA final exam in November 10. तो अक्टूबर 2010 में नहीं खेला. उसके अलावा मैंने कोई गरबा मिस नहीं किया हुआ है. करेक्ट
We
है?
all know, we all know.
हाँ, तो फिर तो कोई नहीं, पढ़ाई के टाइम पे सिर्फ पढ़ाई करेंगे. करेक्ट हर्षित? तो
Yes, yes,
आईपीएल
sir.
बाद में आबा सर अपने को आईपीएल करवा देंगे, फिक्र नहीं करना.
क्योंकि रात को घर पे जाके हाईलाइट देख ले भाई तू.
राइट? यस. एनी मोर क्वेश्चंस?
वाले स्टूडेंट्स को चाहिए था. And to conclude with, I would like to request now Miss Khyati Jain, our program coordinator, to give a vote of thanks to one and only Rudesh Pankhania, sir.
Thank you, Harshit. A very good evening to everyone who's present here. And I feel very privileged to stand here and give a vote of thanks to Rudesh, sir. I would like to thank CA Rudesh, sir, for being here and to address each and every question of the students. I think most of the doubts of, not most, all of the doubts of the students have been cleared. At a personal level, I feel that this session has been very helpful, not just for me, but for everyone who has been here. I was truly, very much agree with that point that you said of 3 hours: read, revise, and rest. A lot of students feel that we would sleep less and study more. We would stay late at night and get up early in the morning and then also study. But no, it might be true that that way of studying is becoming a little unproductive. So it's very important that we rest during the sessions of the days that are before the exam, and not just that, we follow the schedule during our preparation of CA final exam or CA inter, maybe of 3 years, or CA inter preparation of 1 year. I think it's very insightful session. I would also like to thank CA Abba sir and Krishna sir and Amit sir. I would like to thank Harshit and all the Vikasa members, Vikasa team of Vasai, Akola, and Dhule. I think everyone here, I thank everyone here. It has been a wonderful session. And I guess Jainam has posted the Instagram link and the Vasai Vikasa's link in the chat. So if anyone has any doubt or wants to join, can click on the link. And everyone is very approachable. If any doubt you have, you can surely reach out to us. I would again thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you, Khyati, for this
Thank you so much,
amazing
Kathy.
POT, and request taking this, medium for all the students. Please keep connected to the Vikasa, maybe on Instagram, LinkedIn page for the amazing activities that the entire Vikasa has been doing. Thank you, Abba sir, for this special, webinar to, keep. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, sir. So we officially conclude this webinar. Thank you very much, Rudesh, sir.
देख लो अभी IPL.
लीव कर दो सर और रिकॉर्डिंग सेव करने बोल देंगे.
चलो.
बंद करना है क्या?
हाँ.
Yes, yes. Exit.
हाँ.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Ruchi ma'am.